Acha, good evening to all of you. Uh, we are on the day 9, that means 20th December 2022, Tuesday. So today we on the day 9, Kolkata Bidan virtual lecture series on finance and other allied subjects, especially for the BCom undergraduate odd semester students, organized by the Kolkata Bidhanagar Society for Academic Advancement. So today, dear students, we are on the ninth day. Today we have three respected speakers. In the first lecture series, number 16, we have CA Shubhayan Basu sir from Anand Mohan College, Kolkata. And in the lecture series number 17, uh, 17, 18, we have Sumedha Majumder, Lal Baba College, Belur. And 19, lecture series number 19, we have Pingala Roy Chowdhury from Tarakeshwar Degree College, Hooghly. So I'm just handovering my charge to Sukanya Bhattacharya madam for introducing our CA Shubhayan Basu sir.
Thank you, sir. CA Shubhayan Basu sir, presently working as an associate professor in the Department of Commerce, Anandamohan College, Kolkata, and guest faculty in the Department of Commerce, University of Calcutta, and in the PG Department of St. Xavier's College, Kolkata. He did his BCom honors from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, and MCom and MPhil from the University of Calcutta. He is an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and the Institute of Cost Accountants of India. He is also a member in the Undergraduate Board of Studies in Commerce, University of Calcutta. So I am requesting sir to please take over the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Suganya. Good evening. Today I'm going to discuss, if you see the theme, it is the computation of total income and tax payable by an individual and firm, right? Although this is basically this is a paper 5th semester taxation 2, but unless you have a good grip over the taxation 1, which was taught in semester 4, it's very difficult for you. So what I will do today, I will just jot down the way how you should follow. Okay, it's not that I will discuss a certain provision by provision. It's not that. I'm just giving you the path through which you can move for the success in relation to this paper. This is my first endeavor. Now, before I move into my actual deliberation, I wish to say certain things which are very important. We seldom put focus on those. The nature of the subject is very important, because how will you study, it depends on the nature of the paper, right? Because this all papers you cannot you cannot learn in the same way. You cannot study in the same way. It's not possible. Now, taxation is a paper which is an act-based paper, right? You know that it is based on income tax act. So in case of act-based paper, what happened? You got to learn the provisions, right? To me, what is important is not the learning and the memorizing of the provisions. To me, most important is the interpretation of the provisions. How you can interpret in the proper way. That's very important. So whenever you read tax, you try to interpret of your own. That means what exactly the section wishes to tell me. Suppose I read section 24A. Now I will ask myself that exactly what 24A wishes to tell me. You got to understand that. That's the interpretation. That's a very vital, right? And secondly, you must go through the syllabus. This is one of the very important key factor in case of CBCS, right? When we have semester system, you must read the syllabus very well. This is very important. And third one is how you can read the taxation. You know that Baradin is coming, তাই তো? এখন 25th December আমরা কি বলি? বড়দিন আসছে. So now we used to consume cakes. Now you can consume cakes in two ways. What are those? You can go to a shop, cake shop, and took a piece of pastry or a piece of small cake, you can have it. Alternatively, what you can do, you can purchase a big cake, round shape, come to the house, cut it into pieces, then distribute into that. To me, taxation is like that. What you have to do, you cut down the provision into several pieces, small pieces. Read each piece very carefully, then join some. Don't try to read as a whole. In that case, you won't get any success. Take it from me. It has to be read piece wise, small piece wise, right? I will show you when I will discussing. I will show you how this thing can be done. Every time, everywhere, you got to cut down into pieces, small pieces, and you read, you understand those pieces very carefully. Then you join some. ছোটবেলায় করেছিলি না ওই হাতি ঘোড়া ছোট 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 দিয়ে তারপরে জুড়ে দিলাম একটা হাতি হয়ে গেল একটা বাঘ হয়ে গেল so like that if you know you can join up the whole thing, right? So with this, I move. Now, before I move, I have seen, this is my from long experience. You see the color of my beard and my mustache, so you know that I'm an old person. So my experience is saying that a lot of students, I ask even in my PG classes, they fail to tell me the input. You must learn what are the inputs. If you wishes to learn the tax sincerely, you have to learn what are the inputs. There are 4 inputs. Number 1, you got to learn the provision from Income Tax Act 1961. So that is the input number 1. And you know, Income Tax Act, there are a lot of rules. Like when you do the valuation of motor car, valuation of accommodation, is it written in the act? No. You read the act, nothing is written. It is written by the rules. So second input is Income Tax Rules 1962. Third is, there are several circulars, notifications which is issued by the Central Board of Direct Taxes or CBDT, apex body for direct taxes. And fourth one is different cases from Supreme Court, from High Courts, and from tribunals. So unless you know this all 4, you cannot do that, right? This is very important. Since time is not permitting, I will not get the time. I can show you through examples that if you don't know any of these, you have a problem, right? So whenever you wish to take tax as a paper, you read seriously, you got to study tax seriously. My suggestion is you please go through those. Okay, keep in mind that I have to know the provision as per Income Tax Act 1961, together with the rules 1962, together with the corresponding notifications or circulars, if any, issued by the severity, and together with any pertinent case which are decided either in Supreme Court or in High Courts or in tribunals. Okay, so this is the way you should read, right? Now I move to the computation part. This is your taxation 2, module 1, unit 1, right? So now computation of total income or taxable income and tax payable, it's a long way. It's a long way. Now before that, so far as certain basic things, because I believe that basic must be very strong. I am a strong believer of that. Always don't try to read things without strengthening your basic. Basic is very important. Now just 2-3 lines I will talk of the basic. Now, although you may say, "Are sir, ki question? We all read taxation in 4th semester, so now you are talking as basic." Yes, I always talk the basic. Even if I used to teach in PG classes, I used to talk about the basic. Now, basically, you know, the term is called income tax. So that is tax on income, right? Now, whenever you talk of income, you raise a very pertinent question, sir, what type of income? You tell that it is a tax on income, agree. But what type of income it is? Now, basically, if you read the Income Tax Act, it's very interesting. Your income may be inland, means within India. It may be a foreign income. For a foreign income, you may have to pay tax in India. I'm not telling for all cases, but there are some cases when even your foreign income, you got to pay tax in India, right? It could be notional income. It could be real income. Uh, Real income means which you actually earn. Notional income means which is not you actually earn. Just think of your house property, right? The formula is, if you remember, the gross annual value, the formula is whichever is higher. What is this? Actual rent, notional rent. That means the rent at which it could have been let out. বাট ইট অ্যাকচুয়ালি নট, এটাকে আমি ওই দামে ভাড়া দিইনি। ধর আমি কাউকে 8,000 টাকা ভাড়া দিয়েছি সাপোজ, অ্যান্ড দ্য নোশনাল রেন্ট ইজ 10,000, I have to pay tax on 10,000 into 12, 1,20,000, that will be my GAV. So that is the notional income. So income tax also include the notional income also, no? Or it can be fair income. Fair income means income which I earn fairly. I'm teaching in a college, I'm getting my monthly salary, it's my fair income. Or foul income. Foul income means, say, income which is not legal, which is illegal. Now you may jump up. They said, how illegal income is taxable? What you are saying? How do they know? The question is, if they don't know, you did not have to pay. But once they got hold of you, you have to pay taxes, right? Because it is the income. The color of the income is not important. আমরা বলি না কালো টাকা সাদা টাকা এমনিতে বলি, ইনকাম ট্যাক্স লোকেদের কাছে সাদা কালো বলে কিছু নেই। Their thing is, are you earning? Yes, if you are earning, you have to pay taxes. As simple as that. So foul income is also taxable, right? Betting, জানিস তোরা, these are all taxable. আবার বলছি, if you caught off, ধরা পড়লে, if you can't, if you are not paying taxes, you know a lot of people are not paying taxes. I'm not going into that, right? এটা হচ্ছে বেসিক জায়গায় জানি। সো ইনকাম ইজ এ ভেরি ওয়াইড পার্সপেক্টিভ। হ্যাঁ, সো ইনকামস আর প্র্যাকটিক্যালি আমাদের কি মনে হচ্ছে যে এনি ইনকাম আন্ডার দ্য সান ইজ ট্যাক্সেবল, রাইট? নাও এবার আমি একটা কন্ট্রাডিকশনে যাচ্ছি। নো, বেসিক্যালি ইনকামস উই আর ডিভাইডেড ইন্টু ব্রডলি টু। One is exempted incomes. That means the incomes on which you are not subject to pay either no taxes or a partial taxes. Now, you have read it, section 10, right? 10(1) agricultural income, right? So I'm not paying any taxes and other is taxable income, right? So income tax act specifically stated যে কোন কোন ইনকামের উপর তুমি ট্যাক্স দেবে, কোন কোন ইনকামের উপর ট্যাক্স দিতে হবে না। দেবেটা বলাটা ভুল, আই এম সরি। কোন কোন ইনকামের উপরে ট্যাক্স দিতে হবে না, দে হ্যাভ স্পেসিফাইড আন্ডার সেকশন 10, রাইট? একদম যে ইনকাম স্পেসিফাই করা আছে, on which you need not have to either no taxes payable or partial taxes payable. Partial taxটা কিরকম হবে? হাউস রেন্ট allowance, একটা পার্ট ইউ কম্পিউট। সো আউট অফ হাউস রেন্ট allowance some part is taxable, some part is not taxable. সো এগুলোকে বলা হয় partial exemption. Okay, আর how much tax I will pay, that depends on my residential status. It's a very very important concept, residential status. মানে if I'm a resident, or I'm a resident and ordinary resident, resident and not ordinary resident, or non-resident, how many total amount of tax, how much I will pay, that depends on the residential status. তাহলে তোদের একটা কথা মনে হতে পারে যে স্যার তাহলে কি তিনজনের জন্য তিন রকম ট্যাক্সের রেট? না না, ট্যাক্স রেট ইজ ওয়ান। ইটস নট দ্যাট যে আমি যদি নন রেসিডেন্ট হই তাহলে আই উইল পে ট্যাক্স এট 100, অলদো নন রেসিডেন্টের জন্য বেশ কিছু স্পেশাল রেট অফ ট্যাক্সেস আছে 115-এ, হুইচ ইজ নট ইন আওয়ার সিলেবাস, আমি সেটা ধরছি না। বাট দেয়ার ইজ নো সাচ one rate is there, but the context is for resident but not ordinary resident, or for non-resident, some incomes are not taxable in their hand, so their total income get reduced. So one total income get reduced, কি হচ্ছে? You pay lower amount of taxes, right? Good. আর লামা, প্রফেসর লামা, can the students ask questions instantly or at the end? Sukanya?
Sir, actually, no questions can be raised because some are.
Okay. Move on. Because I like to be questioned. Huh? Every point I like to be questioned. Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
Then what happens? So I know incomes are taxable. So how I do it? I divide into 5 heads. You know that very well: salary, house property, business profession, capital gain, and other sources. Right? Now come to your total income computation. I will go step by step and try to understand. If required, I will use the whiteboard. You see, there is a whiteboard behind me, so I will use the whiteboard because I'm not very familiar with this PPT format. What I believe is you got to understand. Khata pencil একটু হাতে করে রাখতে পারি, so you can write it down. You can jot it down. এটা মনে কর it's a normal class. Sir is taking a class, so I'm taking the notes. Okay, so now I know the incomes. I know there are 5 heads of income. So now I'm moving into the actual computation of total income. What I'll have to do? What you have to do? You have to compute income under all 5 heads separately. So you compute income from salary, income from house property, income from business and profession, income from capital gains, and income from other sources. Okay, so that part, this is why I'm talking that for this purpose, what you need, what you need is that uh, whatever you read in semester 4, সেমিস্টার 4 কেউ যদি না পড়ে আসো তাহলে ইল বি ইন ট্রাবল বাবা। সেমিস্টার 4টা খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট ছিল। ওকে, সো নাও ইউ রেজ এ কোয়েশ্চেন যে স্যার ইফ হোয়াট ইউ আর সেইং, তাহলে তো একটা বিশাল প্রবলেম হবে। ওয়ান প্রবলেম, আই হ্যাভ টু কম্পিউট হাউস স্যালারি, হাউস প্রপার্টি, বিজনেস প্রফেশন, ক্যাপিটাল গেইন, আদার সোর্সেস, তাহলে তো ওয়ান প্রবলেম উইল টেক মি 2 hours. So we must learn how, what in what form problem may be given, এটা মাথায় রাখ, কি ফর্মে প্রবলেমটা দেওয়া যেতে পারে ইন ফাইনাল এক্সাম। আমার যেটা মনে হচ্ছে, ইটস ফর মাই ওন ইমপ্রেশন, ইট মে বি গিভেন ইন 3 ways। এটাকে ভালো করে বুঝে নে, দেন আই উইল ডিসকাস ইট। Number one, there may be a problem where the focus is on salaries. A person, lot of salaries are given, one or two other sources given, then deductions given, you can compute it. This is one type. Second type is business and profession focusing. I am giving you a person, the profit and loss of a sole proprietor business. Thereby, onto the credit side, I can put some rent, which is from house property. I can put some capital gain. I can put some other sources. So in that way, this can be done. But generally, if you go through past question paper, because I believe your exam date has already been given for the 5th semester students, so whatever I say, uh, if you get some benefit in your exam, I'll be very happy. Generally, if you go through these past question papers, you will find that problems are not given in these 2 ways, whatever I'm saying. Instead of that, what they give you practically, the incomes are practically computed. So they are giving you computed income from house property, computed income from salary, computed income from business, computed income from capital gain, computed income from other sources. But once again, there is no compulsion that every time computed income is to be given. I will show you how in different format the problem may be changed. You got to understand it. And barbar bolchi, understanding is most important. Don't try to memorize. কিচ্ছু হবে না তাহলে, মুখস্থ করে গেলে হবে না, because no one can give you the guarantee the same problem will set in the final exam. Okay, এবার দেখ স্যালারি কি হতে পারে। If I say computed income from salary, finished. So income from salary 5 lakhs, finished. But if I give it in a different way, say if I say gross salary 5 lakhs and profession tax paid by that person rupees 2,000. So in that case, you cannot put it 5 lakhs. So from gross salary, what you have to do, you have to deduct standard deduction under section 16(1)(a), 50,000, and 16(3) profession tax. So 50,000 plus 2,000, 52,000. So 5 lakh minus 52,000, 4,48,000. That is the income from salary. Am I clear? If it is given computed, you need not have to do anything. But if the problem is not given computed, if they given gross salary, then you have to deduct those standard deductions 16(1)(a) and the profession tax. Because entertainment is now actually defunct, 16(2) only for these government employees. Okay. House property. Generally, what happened? Generally, house property income is given in computed form. But suppose the examiner think, okay, I need to test whether they rate the house property or not. So I can give it in a different fashion. What I've given, Mr. X, he owns a house whose gross annual value is say 2 lakhs, and he paid interest on loan. So in that case, this is not a computed figure. So what I have to do? Gross annual value, therefore deduct municipal tax, you compute net annual value, therefore you deduct statutory deduction under section 24(a) 30%, right? Then you deduct interest on loan 24(b), then you get the house property. So because you are not sure how the problem will be set, you don't know, I don't know. Okay, so you have to be prepared for everything, prepare for the worst, as if things are not in favor of us. So if they given house property income house property computed, finished, you just put it the figure. But if the way I'm talking, that it is a gross annual value, I've given you the municipal tax, I've given interest on loan, then you have to compute it, right? Then business profession, generally you need not have to compute because it's a huge affair. So if there is any in the problem, if in the exam hall, if there is any income from business or income from profession, generally it will be computed. You can assume that generally it will be computed. Now the capital gain. Capital gain, maybe two things. Maybe it's given as long-term capital gain or short-term capital gain. Or if the examiner thinks that I need to test the students, they said during the year Mr. X sold his house, say costing 5 lakh for rupees 30 lakhs. He purchased it, say during 2017, and they have given him the CII. So then you have to compute. Land and building, 24 months is long term, below 24 months is short term. Then you have to compute, right? So you have to compute long term capital gain and the short term capital gain in that way. Am I clear? Then other sources. Other sources generally not computed. They have given 2-3 items of other sources which you need to add it, right? Suppose one of the very popular now very well is a dividend. From last assessment year, dividend is now taxable. So dividend, interest, right? Then one very popular item, lottery income. Now in case of lottery income, be very careful about that. Mind it, always income has to be shown at gross figure, Baba, right? আমি একটা এক্সাম্পল দিচ্ছি, ধর আমি স্যালারি পাই কলেজ থেকে, আমি একটা এক্সাম্পল দিচ্ছি, ধর আমি মান্থলি স্যালারি পাই সে 1,50,000, রাইট? আমার এমপ্লয়ার আমার থেকে টিডিএস, দে ডিডাক্টেড টিডিএস 30,000 পার মান্থ, তাহলে আমি কত পাবো? 1,50,000 মাইনাস 30, 1,20,000। তাহলে আমি বছরে কত পেলাম? 1,20,000 into 12, 14,40,000। Is it taxable? No, it is not taxable. Taxable কত? আমার স্যালারি কত? গ্রস স্যালারি 1,50,000, 1,50,000 into 12, 18 lakhs is taxable। তাই তুই বলবে যে স্যার টিডিএসটা কেটে নিল, আপনি তো পেলেন না, ট্যাক্স দেবেন কেন? The question is, this is application of my income. Cut tax, my tax. So this is nothing but my actual income is 1,50,000, but some part of my income is being attributed for payment of my tax. So সবসময় মনে রাখবি income has to be grossed up. So in case of lottery, what happens? Read the problem very carefully. If they said income from lottery gross, finished. কিচ্ছু করতে হবে না, simply you write it down. But sometimes they said income from lottery after TDS, say at the rate of 31.2% একটা ফিগার দেওয়া আছে। That means it's a net figure. Net figure means after deduction of TDS. So what you have to do, you have to gross up. আচ্ছা আমি 30% ধরি বাবা, সহজ হবে, 30% সে ট্যাক্স। Suppose they have given lottery income is 70,000 after deduction of tax at the rate of 30%. তাহলে কি করে করব গ্রসটা? Suppose if my lottery income is 100, how much is tax? 30। তাহলে 100 minus 30 আমি পেলাম কত? 70। তাহলে এই 70% is 70,000. What is 100%? তার মানে 1 lakh। তার মানে আমার অ্যাকচুয়ালি লটারির গ্রস ছিল 1 lakh, 30% means 30,000 tax deducted, 70,000 is what I receive. But my taxability should be 1 lakh. Be very careful. And another item, these are not set last 2-3 years. Be very careful about that family pension, right? In case of, suppose you have given your assessee is a female, and she is a widow, and she got a family pension of say 20,000 per month. এখন অনেকে মনে হতে পারে তো স্যার সহজ তো, 20,000 into 12, 240. No, there is a deduction, right? You know that house other sources, the charging section is 56 and 57, it is deductions. তাহলে ওখানে কি বলা আছে? 33 1/3% or 15,000, whichever is less. তাহলে আমি 2,40,000 থেকে I will get a deduction of 15,000. Be careful, right? So in this way you add the other sources, you got total income from other sources. তাহলে আমার কাছে সবকটা ইনকাম থেকে গেল, স্যালারি, হাউস প্রপার্টি, বিজনেস, capital gain and other sources. What I will do, I will simply add it. Add করে কি পেলাম? Gross total income, right? না হলো না। There are 2 more things. Be very careful. এগুলোর উপরে অঙ্ক কিন্তু বেশি দেয় না, but you must know এটা হলো না কিন্তু, মানে this is not the total understanding. There are 2 small items which you read in semester 4. One is clubbing, one is set off and carry forward of losses, right? ক্লাবিং মনে আছে তোদের? ক্লাবিং স্পেশালি কি হয়? হাজব্যান্ড ওয়াইফ একটা ক্লাবিং আছে, ক্লাবিং অফ মাইনর। ধর একটা প্রবলেম সেট করা হলো, ওয়্যার আই উইল জাস্ট গিভ ওয়ান লাইন যে মিস্টার এক্স সান অ্যাজ আ মাইনর সান তার নামে একটা ব্যাংকে একটা ডিপোজিট করা হয়েছে, and interest received 15,000, তাহলে কি হবে, ওই 15,000 should be added in the hands of Mr. X, তাই তো। তার সঙ্গে কি বলা আছে, সেকশন 10 সাবসেকশন 32 তে there is a deduction 1500 per child। তাহলে আমার ওখানে এটা তো আমার ইনকাম না, এটা কার ইনকাম, তার মাইনর সানের ইনকাম, বাট সিন্স দ্য ইট অ্যাট্রাক্টস দ্য ক্লাবিং প্রভিশন, এটা আমার হাতে ট্যাক্স হবে। তাহলে আমার হাতে কি হবে, 15,000 মাইনাস 1032 1,500 13,500 গিয়ে যোগ হবে। সো এটা মনে করার কোনো কারণ নেই যে আই উইল পে ট্যাক্স অনলি অন মাই ইনকাম। that impression is wrong. I may have to pay tax for some other's income which is taxable in my hand, বোঝা গেল তো, রাইট? তাহলে এগুলো খেয়াল করবি যে if there is any such income that should have been clubbed। নেক্সট হচ্ছে সেট অফ অ্যান্ড ক্যারি ফরওয়ার্ড। এবার ধর একটা ইন্টারেস্টিংলি one problem set, স্যালারি ইনকাম দেওয়া আছে সব, হাউস প্রপার্টি there is a loss, you know the house property loss হতেই পারে, with self occupied এ তো লস হবে, ইন্টারেস্ট থাকলে there will be loss every time, right? There will be a loss। now তখন কি হবে, so then we must learn the provision of the set off and carry forward। set off carry forward টা কি বলা আছে বাবা, একটা বলা আছে যে inter source set off, তার মানে loss from one source you can set off against income from the same source, clear, under the same head। যেমন ধর হাউস প্রপার্টি, আমার H1 এ প্রফিট আছে, H2 তে লস হয়েছে, তাহলে হেডটা কি, হাউস প্রপার্টি, সোর্স কি, ওয়ান সোর্স ইজ H1, another source is H2, তাহলে I can set it off, right? section 70 পড়ে দেখবে একদম পরিষ্কার বলা আছে। then there is inter head set off, what does it mean, that is loss from one head I can set off against income from another head। যেমন the loss from house property I can set off against income from salary। তো এইটা আমার কাজে লাগবে তখন, if I give you house property at a loss, so then তোর স্যালারি যা হবে তার থেকে হাউস প্রপার্টি টোটাল ইনকাম থেকে এই লসটাকে সেট আপ করতে হবে। সো আফটার ইউ ডু দ্যাট ইউ গেট দ্য গ্রস টোটাল ইনকাম। মাইন্ড ইট ভেরি কেয়ারফুলি, গ্রস টোটাল ইনকাম is not simply the addition of the 5 heads, it is the addition of the 5 heads plus clubbing income plus minus adjustment for set off and carry forward, রাইট? আর সেট আপ ক্যারি ফরওয়ার্ড একটা ছোট্ট পয়েন্ট বলে রাখছি, এটা ভালো করে মাথায় রাখবি, বিকজ ইউ ডোন্ট নো হাউ এক্সামিনার উইল সেট আ কোয়েশ্চেন। খুব মন দিয়ে এটা মাথায় রাখবি। এটা হচ্ছে একটা হচ্ছে বিজনেস ইনকাম ইউ ক্যানট সেট আপ এগেনস্ট স্যালারি, ওকে, বিজনেস লস, সরি, ইফ ইউ ডু এ বিজনেস লস দ্যাট ইউ ক্যানট সেট আপ এগেনস্ট স্যালারি, একটা পয়েন্ট। আর সেকেন্ড পয়েন্ট হচ্ছে লং টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল লস ইউ ক্যান অনলি সেট আপ এগেনস্ট লং টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল গেইন, বাট শর্ট টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল লস you can set up against both long term capital gain and short term capital gain। তো আমি যদি অঙ্কটাকে একটু ঘুরিয়ে ফিরিয়ে দিই, যা ঠিক আছে, আই নিড টু টেস্ট দ্য স্টুডেন্টস, মানে ওয়েদার দে রেট সেট আপ অ্যান্ড ক্যারি ফরওয়ার্ড ওয়েল অর নট। এবার আমি ঘুরিয়ে ফিরিয়ে দিলাম, একটা লং টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল গেইন অন সে সেল অফ গোল্ড, তারপর দিলাম লং টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল লস অন সেল অফ বিল্ডিং, শর্ট টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল গেইন, শর্ট টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল লস। সো আই নিড টু নো হাউ দে নিড টু অ্যাডজাস্ট ইট। সো এইটা একটু ভালো করে মাথায় রাখবি যে দেয়ার মে বি কনটেক্সট অফ সেট অফ অ্যান্ড ক্যারি ফরওয়ার্ড, ওকে। এটা যদি না মাথায় থাকে তাহলে কিন্তু মুশকিল, একটু ভালো অঙ্ক দিলে গুলিয়ে যাবে, ওকে। সো আমি কি করলাম, 5 হেডস আই কম্পিউট। আমি হেডগুলোতে খুব একটা যাচ্ছি না, মানে আমি না, মানে ইফ আই গেট আ কোয়েশ্চেন দ্যাট উড হ্যাভ বিন বেটার, যে কোন পার্টটা তোরা বুঝতে পারিস না, হুইচ ইউ কনফিউজ, তাহলে আমার পক্ষে একটু সুবিধা। যাই হোক, ঠিক আছে, ওকে। এমনিতে স্যালারি তো তোরা জানিস, তো স্যালারি বেসিক্যালি কি আসবে, একটা বেসিক স্যালারি আসবে, আর অ্যালাওয়েন্সেস আসবে, পারকিউজিট আসবে, প্রফিটস ইন লিউ অফ স্যালারি, you add it, you get the gross salary, they are from 16,116 to 16,3, right? House property তোরা জানিস, gross annual value minus municipal tax net annual value minus 24 minus 24, right? Business profession we know that profit as per PL, add certain expenses which is not allowed, less certain allowable expenses, like that. Capital gain তো আমি এক্ষুনি বললাম, long term or short term, that we know, ওকে। আর আদার সোর্সেস আমি তো এক্ষুনি দুটো তো ইম্পর্টেন্ট বলে দিলাম, ওয়ান ইজ লটারি ইনকাম অ্যান্ড ওয়ান ইজ ফ্যামিলি পেনশন। এই দুটো খুব ভালো করে দেখবে, আদার্স গুলো সিম্পলি যোগ হয়ে যাবে, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই। ধর ডিভিডেন্ড 10,000, নাও একটা ছোট্ট পয়েন্ট, নাও ডিভিডেন্ড ফ্রম ফরেন কোম্পানি, ডিভিডেন্ড ফ্রম ইন্ডিয়ান কোম্পানি ট্রিটেড অ্যাট পার, আগে ছিল না, না, এখন ট্রিটেড অ্যাট পার। সো অল ডিভিডেন্ডস আর ট্যাক্সেবল ওয়েদার ইউ রিসিভ ইন ফরেন কোম্পানি অর ইন্ডিয়ান কোম্পানি, রাইট? আমি কিন্তু যেটা বলছি এর কোনো এক্সেপশন আছে বাবা, হ্যাঁ, ফরেন কোম্পানি আবার অনেক রকম আছে, সো আই এম নট গোয়িং ইনটু দ্যাট। আমি জেনারেলি হুইচ ইজ অ্যাপ্লিকেবল ফর ইউর কেসেস আই এম টেলিং দ্যাট ডিভিডেন্ড ফ্রম ফরেন কোম্পানি ইজ ট্যাক্সেবল, ডিভিডেন্ড ফ্রম ইন্ডিয়ান কোম্পানি ইজ ট্যাক্সেবল। যোগ করলি, ইন্টারেস্ট পেয়েছিস, ফিক্সড ডিপোজিট অ্যাড করলি, সেভিংস অ্যাড করলি, ব্লা 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 ব্লা, এগুলো সব অ্যাড করে দিই, এটাতে কোনো প্রবলেম নেই। দেন ইউ সি ওয়েদার দেয়ার ইজ এনি ক্লাবিং, থাকলে ডু ইট। দেন ইউ সি ওয়েদার দেয়ার ইজ এনি লস, বা ধর কোনো ব্রট ফরওয়ার্ড লস আছে। ধর অঙ্কটাকে তো দেখ, আমি আবার বলছি কিভাবে অঙ্কটা সেট করা হবে, নো ওয়ান নোজ। ধর আমি ইচ্ছে করে দেখার জন্য আমি বললাম যে একটা হাউস প্রপার্টির ব্রট ফরওয়ার্ড লস আছে লাস্ট ইয়ারে 60,000। তো ধর আমার এবছরে বলা আছে ইনকাম ফর হাউস প্রপার্টি 80,000, তাহলে 80 থেকে আমাকে 60 মাইনাস করে দিতে হবে, বিকজ আই হ্যাভ টু সেট ইট অফ। ওকে, এইটাই বলছি যে লজিক্যালি জিনিসটা মাথায় রাখ, পুট দ্য থিংস ইনটু ইউর হেড লজিক্যালি, দেখবি থিংস আর ভেরি সিম্পল, টেক ইট ফ্রম মি, কিচ্ছু কঠিন না, থিংস আর সিম্পল, বাট ইউ হ্যাভ টু থিঙ্ক লজিক্যালি, রাইট, যে কোনটার পরে কোনটা হবে, হুইচ ওয়ান উইল কাম আফটার ওয়ান, দ্যাট ইজ দ্য মোস্ট ভাইটাল থিং। তাহলে আমরা কি পেয়ে গেলাম, গ্রস টোটাল ইনকাম, হলো তো? এবার গ্রস টোটাল ইনকাম থেকে হোয়াট উই উইল ডু, উই উইল ডিডাক্ট ডিডাকশনস আন্ডার চ্যাপ্টার 6-এ। আমি জানি না তোরা চ্যাপ্টার 6 এটা সবাই জানিস কিনা, চ্যাপ্টার 6-এ পপুলারলি নোন অ্যাজ সেকশন 80। ওকে, তো সেকশন 80-এর মধ্যে আই উইশ টু ডিসকাস সাম অফ দ্য সেকশনস, একটা দুটো আমার মনে হয় দ্যাট উইল ভেরি হেল্পফুল টু ইউ। But first thing which is very important, which seldom, most of the students they don't know, that these deductions, it's not applicable for all sorts of income. There are certain incomes on which there is no benefit of deductions under chapter 6A, right? ধর আমার একটা কোনো ইয়ারে আমার কোনো ইনকাম নেই, আমি কিচ্ছু করি না, আই এম নট এ স্যালারিড পারসন, রাইট, আমি কোনো বিজনেস করি না, আমার আমার কোনো হাউস প্রপার্টি আমি রেন্ট করিনি, or আমার আদার সোর্সেস কিছু নেই। আমি একটা জাস্ট এক্সাম্পল দিচ্ছি, হোয়াট আই ডিড, আই সোল্ড আ হাউস। আমার বাবার একটা বাড়ি ছিল, 30 বছরের ওল্ড বাড়ি, 30 ইয়ার্স ওল্ড, আই সোল্ড দ্য হাউস। তাহলে আমার লং টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল গেইন হলো, ইটস আ হিউজ অ্যামাউন্ট, তোরা জানিস এখন বাড়িপত্রের কী দাম। সো আই সোল্ড দ্য হাউস ফর সে 1.2 crore, আর 30 বছর আগে ধর মাই ফাদার কনস্ট্রাক্টেড অ্যাট এ কস্ট অফ 30,000, তো হিউজ ইনকাম, তাহলে এটা লং টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল গেইন হলো। ক্যান আই ক্লেম চ্যাপ্টার 6-এ? নো, এই পুরোটার ওপরে তোকে ট্যাক্স দিতে হবে। তাহলে আমাকে আগে জানতে হবে চ্যাপ্টার 6-এ নট অ্যাপ্লিকেবল ফর হুইচ ইনকাম। চ্যাপ্টার 6-এ নট অ্যাপ্লিকেবল ফর লং টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল গেইন, শর্ট টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল গেইন আন্ডার সেকশন 111A, মানে লিস্টেড সিকিউরিটি সাবজেক্ট টু এসটিটি, শর্ট টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল গেইন, এই ইনকামের ওপরে চ্যাপ্টার 6-এ হয় না, ক্লিয়ার? লং টার্ম ক্যাপিটাল গেইন সাবজেক্ট টু এসটিটি 1112A হয় না, লটারি ইনকাম হয় না। সো ইউ গট টু লার্ন, কারণ অঙ্কটা এমনভাবে ওয়ান ক্যান সেট যে এই ইনকামগুলো ঢুকে আছে, সো ইউ গট টু নো দ্যাট হুইচ ইনকাম ইউ ওন্ট গেট এনি চ্যাপ্টার 6-এ, এটা ভাইটাল। This is the very basic thing of chapter 6A. I must know that on which income chapter 6A is not applicable. এই ইনকামগুলোর উপরে কিন্তু চ্যাপ্টার 6-এ হয় না, but this income will form the part of your gross total income, but on that income you don't have any benefit of chapter 6A. ক্লিয়ার তো? আমি সময় থাকলে আমি অনেক মজার অঙ্ক করে দেখাতে পারতাম, যে কি পিকুলিয়ার সিচুয়েশন উই ক্যান, দেয়ার ক্যান অ্যারাইজ ভেরি পিকুলিয়ার সিচুয়েশন, যেটা আনলেস ইউ নো ইউ ক্যানট কম্পিউট ইট। হলো তো? তাহলে আমি বুঝে নিলাম যে এই ইনকামগুলোর উপরে চ্যাপ্টার 6-এ ইজ নট অ্যাপ্লিকেবল। ওকে, নাও দিস সেকশনস আমরা জানি পপুলার সেকশন এখানে অনেকগুলো আছে, 80C, 80CCC, 80CCD, 80D, 80DD, 80DD, তারপরে 80E, কিন্তু 80টা আনফরচুনেটলি এখন নট অ্যাপ্লিকেবল, 80G, 80GGC, তারপর 80TTA, 80U, তাই তো? এই কটা সেকশন আছে। গুড। So now I will discuss some of the finer points. It's not possible for me to discuss all those deductions, but I will give you certain things যেটা মাথায় রাখতে হবে. It's very important. I know some of the students, they get very confused. 80C-তে what you have to see, 80C-তে important point, you know 80C is a very popular section, you read it very well, and you know a lot of items, 80C covering a lot of items. Okay, but one or two items are important, which I said that life insurance premium, you see the date. If it is before 1st of April 2012, then it is 20% of the policy value. You know, policy value, whenever you take a policy, they will say a policy value. Suppose 5 lakhs, 2 lakhs, 1 lakh, policy value. So your premium is restricted to 20%. But after 1/4/12, it is only 10%. And for a specific case, from 2021, it is 15%. That is the person having some physical disability. but generally it is 10%. So it is very important you read the year. Now the question you may raise, this is year bole na deয়. Suppose if they said only life insurance premium paid, then I will assume it is within the limit. কিচ্ছু করার নেই আমার। Suppose they said LIP paid 25,000, আর তোকে ব্র্যাকেট হয়তো বলেই দিল পলিসি ভ্যালু 2 lakhs, but since the dates are not mentioned, so it's up to you. তুমি যদি মনে করো it is sir it is taken before 12, you do accordingly, and if you said sir it is after 12, you do it accordingly. Okay, so এটা একটা খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট জায়গা আমার যেটা মনে হয়েছে যে this is one where the students may commit some error. Okay, আর ইম্পর্টেন্টের মধ্যে কি আছে বল, রিপেমেন্ট অফ হাউস বিল্ডিং লোন. So whenever you are repaying the house building loan, কি হয়, I have taken a loan for house building. Okay, so I paid two things. ভালো করে ভেবে দেয় কি পেমেন্ট করছিস, I pay the principal, I pay the interest, right? প্রিন্সিপালটা ডিডাকশন পাবে 80C তে, and interest you will get deduction 24B আমরা বললাম হাউস প্রপার্টিতে. So you will get deduction for interest in 24B, and 80C তে পাবে প্রিন্সিপাল পার্ট, right? So whatever, whenever you repay, you will get a deduction under section 80C. ওকে, এই দুটো জিনিস ইম্পর্টেন্ট. আর একটা হচ্ছে টিউশন ফিস, তাই তো, ছেলে বা মেয়ের টিউশন ফিস, এছাড়া তো নর্মাল আছে পিপিএফ, আরপিএফ, ব্লা ব্লা ব্লা। ওকে, এটা নিয়ে খুব একটা মানে ইটস নট দ্যাট টাফ কিছু আছে, রাইট? নেক্সট সেকশন ইজ 80CCD. This is one section which I think you need to learn. This section is basically it's not very well acquainted with the students. I mean 80CCD টা নিয়ে I wish to tell 2-3 lines or some points. Okay, now CCD talks of National Pension Scheme, NPS, right? Now what happens in case of NPS, ধর I am an employee, তোরা প্যারালালি ভাব প্রভিডেন্ট ফান্ডের মতো. What happens in case of provident fund, employee pays in provident fund, employer pays for provident fund, and interest accrued. Okay, in the same way in case of NPS, employee paid the premium, employer paid the pension money, employee paid the pension money, employer also paid the pension money. Now the question is how much is deductible under section, there is a specific section called 80CCD. তাহলে 80CCD তে কি হচ্ছে, there are two payment. One is payment made by the employee and one is payment made by the employer, right? Now from 2021 they have changed some provisions. এখন বলছে if you are not even an employee, you can also be member of a NPS. যেরকম if you remember PPF এ কি হচ্ছে, এমপ্লয়ি না হলেও তো ধর সেলফ, আমি একজন ডক্টর, I am not in service, I am a doctor, I am making a private practice, or I am a chartered accountant, I am making a private practice, but I can be a member of PPF even if I don't have any employer. So in the same way in case of NPS also, now they said yes, even if a self-employed person can also be a member of the NPS, right? Now whenever it comes to the deduction, এটা একটু ভালো করে বুঝতে হবে বাবা, খুব মন দিয়ে বুঝতে হবে. How much is deduction? They said employees contribution to NPS পাবে, কতটা পাবে না, up to 10% of salary. If it is exceed 10%, excess is not allowed for CCD. Clear হলো? Suppose আমার the salary এখানে, now you may raise a question যে sir what the salary mean here, because every time I talk of salary got a different meaning. Here the salary meaning is same as provident fund or house rent allowance, that is the basic salary, plus dearness allowance if forms a part of salary, that is the dearness pay, plus commission on sales. Okay, so suppose my total salary is 1 lakh and I am contributing 12,000. আমি টোটাল স্যালারি বলতে ইয়ারলি স্যালারি ধরছি, জাস্ট আমি একটা এক্সাম্পল দেওয়ার জন্য. সো 12, so I am paying 12,000, তাহলে 10% হচ্ছে কত, 10,000. So I will get benefit only for 10,000 under 80CCD. 2,000 যেটা এক্সট্রা দিচ্ছি তার উপর আমি বেনিফিট পাবো না ফর সিসিডি. হ্যাঁ, কন্ট্রিবিউশন থাকবে, দ্যাট ইজ নট আ প্রবলেম, বাট আই উইল নট গেট দ্য ট্যাক্স বেনিফিট. আর কি পাবো, এমপ্লয়ার্স কন্ট্রিবিউশন অলসো আই উইল গেট. ইটস ভেরি ইন্টারেস্টিং. Someone is paying but I will get a deduction under 80CCD. আমি সেকশন গুলো বলছি না বাবা, এমপ্লয়িটা হচ্ছে CCD 1, এমপ্লয়িটা হচ্ছে CCD 2. কতটা পাবো, সেম, up to 10% অবধি পাবো এমপ্লয়ার কন্ট্রিবিউশন. আর এখন লাস্ট ইয়ারে they have changed it for central government employee, it is 14%. আমি পাবো up to 10% আমি সোজা করে নিচ্ছি, আমাদের তো দেখ গভর্নমেন্ট এমপ্লয়ি তো আমার অ্যাসেস হিসাবে আসে না, সো আই ডোন্ট মেক দ্য থিং কাম্বারসাম, আমি সিম্পল ধরছি। তাহলে এমপ্লয়ারও 10% অফ স্যালারি দে ক্যান কন্ট্রিবিউট, সেটা আমি পাবো। আরেকটা পাবো থার্ড ওয়ান, উইচ ইজ ইন্ট্রোডিউস 3-4 ইয়ার্স ব্যাক, একটা এক্সেস 50,000, সেটাকে বলছি 80 CCD 1B, যে আমি যদি আরো একটা এক্সট্রা 50,000 কন্ট্রিবিউট করে আমি তার উপরে পাবো, আমি সেটাও বেনিফিট পাবো, রাইট? নাও দ্য কোয়েশ্চেন ইজ, জানি না তোদের খেয়াল আছে কিনা, দেয়ার ইজ অ্যানাদার সেকশন কল 80 CCE, ওটা সিলেবাসে তো ডাইরেক্টলি বলা নেই, বাট 80 CCE ইজ ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট। কেন বলছি, যে আমার টোটাল ডিডাকশন আন্ডার সেকশন 80C প্লাস 80 CCC, 80 CCC হচ্ছে কি বলতো, পেনশন ফান্ড, এটা তো ন্যাশনাল পেনশন স্কিম, আর সিসিসি হচ্ছে পেনশন ফান্ড অফ লাইফ ইন্স্যুরেন্স কর্পোরেশন অর এনি আদার প্রাইভেট অর্গানাইজেশন, সেখানে দিলেও আমি পাবো, ডিডাকশন পাবো। বাট টোটাল ডিডাকশন আন্ডার সেকশন 80C প্লাস সিসিসি প্লাস সিসিডি ইট নট শুড নট এক্সিড 1,50,000। এই তিনটে মিলিয়ে কিন্তু আমাদের একটা ধারণা আছে না, দেখবি সবাই বলে 80C 1,50,000, না দ্যাট ইজ রং, 80C 1,50,000, 80C প্লাস 80 CCC প্লাস 80 CCD মিলিয়ে 1,50,000। নাও দেয়ার ইজ আ প্রবলেম, এখন 80 CCD-তে কতটা, আমি কি বলেছিলাম, দেয়ার আর 3 কন্ট্রিবিউশন, রাইট? তো একটু মানে জিনিসটাকে লজিক্যালি ভাব, এমপ্লয়িজ কন্ট্রিবিউশন, এমপ্লয়ার্স কন্ট্রিবিউশন, অ্যান্ড একটা এক্সেস 50,000 কন্ট্রিবিউশন। ইফ আই উইশ, আমি যদি মনে করে আরো কিছু বেশি টাকা দেব, আমি দিতে পারি আপ টু 50,000, মানে আপ টু না, বেশি দিতে পারি, বাট আমি আসছি পরে, মানে কেন 50,000 বললাম, ওয়াই আই টোল্ড 50,000, এটা 50,000। এই 50,000 এর বেনিফিটটা কিন্তু ওই 80 সিসি এর লিমিটের মধ্যে নেই, তার মানে ওখানে 1,50,000, আর এই যে এক্সেস 50,000 দিলাম আন্ডার সিসিডি 1B, তার মানে আই ক্যান এনজয় 1,50,000 প্লাস 52 lakhs, রাইট? নাও দ্য কোয়েশ্চেন ইজ, সিসিডিতে তাহলে কোনটা আসবে? শুধু এমপ্লয়িজ কন্ট্রিবিউশনটা কিন্তু আসবে, এমপ্লয়ার্সটাও এখানে আসবে না 1,50,000 এর মধ্যে। তাহলে 1,50,000 কম্পিউট করতে গেলে কি আসবে? 80C, 80 CCC আর 80 CCD 1 only, that is employees contribution to the provident fund। এমপ্লয়েজ কন্ট্রিবিউশন এর ভেতরে আসবে না, সেটার জন্য আলাদা তুমি সিসিডি বেনিফিট পাবে, আর এক্সট্রা 50,000 এর বেনিফিট তুমি পাবে, রাইট? এই জিনিসটা একটু মাথায় রাখ, বিকজ সিসিডি ইজ নট আ ভেরি আই ফাইন্ড পপুলার সেকশন, এটা আমি জানি না কেন, মানে ইটস নট ভেরি ওয়েল রেড অলসো, নট ওয়েল টট অলসো, আই এম ভেরি সরি টু সে। ঠিক আছে, 80D, 80Dটা কি? হেলথ ইন্স্যুরেন্স। দেখ আমি যে বলছিলাম না, কেটে কেটে কি করে পড়তে হয়, না আই উইল শো ইউ। 80Dটা খুব কাম্বারসাম, পড়লে দেখবি ইটস ভেরি কাম্বারসাম, স্যার বোঝা যাচ্ছে না, মানে সিনিয়র সিটিজেন, নন সিনিয়র সিটিজেন, 25, 50 কিভাবে করবি? দেখ, মেক 2 ব্লকস, একটা ব্লকে কর এসএসসি, রাইট, উইথ ফ্যামিলি, আরেকটা ব্লকে কর পেরেন্টস, ক্লিয়ার? তাহলে আই হ্যাভ 2 blocks, one in one block, what I have SSC, spouse, children, another block, parents. Now think of the situation one by one. If our age is below 60, I mean if we are not senior citizens, SSC, তাহলে পাবে 25, ক্লিয়ার? তার যদি কোনো পেরেন্ট না থাকে তাহলে সে পাবে ম্যাক্সিমাম 25। আই এম টেলিং ইউ ম্যাক্সিমাম 25, দ্যাট মিনস ইফ ইউ পেড লেস দ্যান 25 তাহলে কিন্তু লেস দ্যান 25 হবে। Suppose I pay premium 20,000, now I cannot say, আরে স্যার আপনি তো 82 বলেছেন, 82 তে 25 পাবো, নো, ইউ হ্যাভ টু পে, রাইট? এবার ধর পেরেন্টস আছে, নাও সি দ্য এজ অফ দ্য পেরেন্টস, ধর পেরেন্টসরাও কেউ সিনিয়র সিটিজেন নয়, তাহলে আমার বেনিফিটটা কত হবে? 25 ফর ব্লক 1, 25 ফর ব্লক 2, 50। পরের কেসটা ধর, আমি মানে মাই ফ্যামিলি নট সিনিয়র সিটিজেন, তাহলে 25, আমার পেরেন্টস সিনিয়র সিটিজেন, তাহলে 50, তখন হয়ে গেল 50, তাহলে 25 প্লাস 50, 75। থার্ড সিচুয়েশন ধর, আই এম এ সিনিয়র সিটিজেন and naturally my parents are also senior citizen, তাহলে কত পাবো? 50 for block 1, 50 for block 2, 1 lakh। The maximum benefit one can get under 80D is 1 lakh, right? এটা যদি তোরা এইভাবে ব্লক করে নিস, দেখবি things will be very easy। The one block SSC with his family, with his or her family, and another block parents, বলো? তাহলে এরপরে 80D বা 80DDB, I think that not very tough। 80G is donation, you know, 80GGB is also donation, but the difference is in case of donation to political parties it is governed by 80GGB, in case of other donator it is governed by section 80G, ক্লিয়ার? 80G কিন্তু ভালো প্রবলেম মানে ইনসার্ট করা যেতে পারে, মানে ইফ ইউ উইশ examiner can give a very good problem on 80G inside it, but আমার মনে হচ্ছে না, not that a big problem will be set. Okay, then another section is 80 TTA. Be very careful. A lot of students made a mistake in 80 TTA. এটা যেন না হয়, because in case of 80 TTA others কি হবে, you will be given information না, that Mr. X paid premium, Mr. X paid health insurance premium, Mr. X donated here, so you know these sections are hit. But in case of 80 TTA, what happens, you won't get anything, but you may have to give 80 TTA. What is this 80 TTA talks of? It's a deduction for interest on savings bank account, right? Suppose in other sources আমি একটা আইটেম দিয়ে দিয়েছি যে ডিভিডেন্ড 25,000, interest from savings account 15,000, so আমার gross to আমার income from other sources 25 plus 15 40. Instantly I know, since it is a savings account interest, I will get 80 TTA instantly, right? Plus you know, if you read section 10 subsection 15 দেখবি পোস্ট অফিসের জন্য একটা 3,500 একটা 5,000 একটা এক্সট্রা বেনিফিট দেওয়া আছে। So এটা অনেকে গুলিয়ে ফেলে, don't get mixed up. You will get for interest on savings from post office, you will get 3,500 under 1015 and 10,000 for 80 TTA. So technically you will get 13,500 as a deduction, right? Then finally is, you know, 80U হচ্ছে মানে যে one person who is physically handicapped, that benefit is there. So you are deducting it. Chapter 6 what you are getting is taxable total income, right? So part 1 over. There are two parts. One is computation of taxable income. Now it is over. Now we come to tax payable. Now when you compute tax payable, it is two stage. Be very careful. It is two stage process. Stage 1 হচ্ছে, first you go for specific rate of taxation. What is specific rate of taxation? There are certain specified rates. যেমন long term capital gain, it will be taxed at the rate of 20%. Short term capital gain under section 111A, it will be taxed at the rate of 15%, right? Or long term capital gain on listed share subject to STT up to 1 lakh not taxable, excess 10%. Lottery income will be taxed at the rate of 30%. So your total income, suppose the total income is 10,50,000, out of which first you take out this specified long-term capital gain, take out 20%, 11A take out 15%. So you take out those, and then whatever the balance left, on which you apply your rate. So up to 2,50,000 nil, 2,52,000, 5 lakhs 5%, 5 to 10 20%, above 10 30%. Or if you are senior citizen, 2,50,000 will be replaced by 3 lakhs. So this is very important. Don't get the things mixed up. Your total income may have two sets of income. One set of income which is taxed at a specified rate, one set of income which is taxed at a general rate. So first you go for the specific rate, then balance of income to be taxed at the general rate. Then you get the total of tax payable. Okay, now from tax payable, what will you do? You will deduct 87A. How much is rebate? If your income is within 5 lakhs, you will get a rebate up to a maximum of 12,500. So whatever your tax payable, suppose I'm giving an example. I compute tax payable and it comes to say 1,56,250. Now from 1,56,250, I will deduct, say, if, now mind it very carefully, if your gross total income exceed 5 lakhs, then you won't get the rebate. But no, হবে না রে, 1 লাখ হলে অনেক বেশি হয়ে যাবে। Such as suppose that my income is, sorry, my tax is say 37,200, right? And my income is within, আমি assume করে নিচ্ছি within 5 lakhs, right? And plus আমার আদার কিছু ইনকাম আছে যদি আমি ধরে নিই। So now therefrom you deduct rebate under section 87A. rebate দেওয়ার পর যেটা পড়ে থাকলো, whatever the left, then you add the surcharge, right? surcharge-টা তোরা করিসনি, surcharge-টা is not very popular. surcharge-টা কি আছে, individual huge surcharge, কিন্তু up to 50 lakhs of income, no surcharge. 50 lakhs to 1 crore, 10%. 1 crore to 2 crore, 15%. 2 crore to 5 crore, 25%. Above 5 crore, 37% surcharge. তারপরে surcharge add করলি, যেটা হলো, then you add HEC, health and education cess @4% করে অ্যাড করে যেটা পেলি, দ্যাট ইজ দ্য ট্যাক্স পেয়েবল। এবার ট্যাক্স পেয়েবল থেকে ধর যদি কোনো টিডিএস থাকে, ধর আমি অঙ্কটাকে একটুখানি আই উইশ টু টেস্ট দ্য স্টুডেন্টস, আমি বললাম সব অঙ্ক দিয়ে নিচে বললাম টিডিএস মেড ফ্রম দ্য স্যালারি একটা টাকা অ্যান্ড হি হ্যাজ অলসো পেড অ্যাডভান্স ট্যাক্স, তাহলে তখন কি হবে, ওই যে ট্যাক্স পেয়েবল অ্যাডভান্স ট্যাক্স করে যেটা পড়ে রইলো, দ্যাট ইজ দ্য ট্যাক্স পেয়েবল। Right? This is the way we can do the computation of total income and computation of tax payable. Clear? Up to this, it is clear. So I have given certain typical cases that if it is a normal problem, very good, no harm in that. But the question is always think of a worst side. The question will be a very bad one, right? So can I tackle it? Yes, if I can tackle it, I can tackle any question which will be said. So this is an individual taxation, but you have also farm taxation, right? So I will now, I will discuss say for another 6, 7 or 10 minutes for taxation of the farm. Now, in case of farm, you know that farm is now farm, and also there is new concept is coming, not coming, it's already in India for last 5-6 years. There is a limited liability partnership. Although in your syllabus we have wrote only the farm, but you must know whenever I talk of farm, technically it also includes the limited liability partnership also, LLP. Now in case of farm, now you may raise a question then say, how can I compute the income in case of farm? Farm means when it's a partnership farm, plain and simple. Whenever I talk of farm, I'm not talk of proprietorship farm, I'm talk of partnership farm. Okay, now in case of partnership farm, how the problems are given, you know, you will be given a profit and loss account and you given the net profit. Then we have to compute the income. So what I will to do, I will take the net profit as per profit and loss account. Then you will do in the same way as you done in individual, but there are certain differences. What are those? You know very well that any payment to proprietor is disallowed, right? So salary to proprietor disallowed, commission to proprietor disallowed, interest on capital to proprietor disallowed. But in case of farm, it is a difference. What is different? In case of farm, in case of partnership farm, any interest on capital to partners is allowable, but up to 12%. If you pay more than 12%, excess is disallowed, right? Interest on drawings, which is credited to the profit and loss account, that will be treated as the income of the fund. So কিচ্ছু করতে হবে না, normally income of the fund বলে treat করা হবে। And the commission, then salary, then bonus payable to the partners, they have a limit. At a section আছে, আমি জানি না তারা পড়েছিস কিনা, 40 small b, 40b, they have set a limit. So limitটা কি, they said in case of farm you can pay any salary, কোনো অসুবিধা নেই, because তোরা জানিস যে farm depends on the agreement. Farm মানে কি বলবো, take birth out of an agreement. আমি একটা এগ্রিমেন্টে যা ইচ্ছা করতে পারি, you can pay me a salary of 1 lakh, কেউ কারো কিছু বলার নেই, because that is an agreement. But the question is the limit. They set a limit. What they said that yes, you can pay any salary, commission, bonus. This is called remuneration. Remuneration to partner means salary to partner, bonus to partner, commission to partner, not interest on capital. Okay, these three. So you add up those. Then they say there is a limit. Limit ta ki, up to first 3 lakh of book profit, it is 90% or 1,50,000, whichever is higher, and on the balance of book profit it is 60%. Okay, so now this is only for the working partner who are actually working. এগুলো নিয়ে অনেক প্রশ্ন হতে পারে, আই এম নট গোয়িং ইনটু ডিপ, কারণ তোদের সেমিস্টারে এগুলো খুব একটা কিছু লাগবে না, বাট কুড হ্যাভ বিন, মানে তুই একটা কোয়েশ্চেনই করতে পারিস যে স্যার হু ইজ এ ওয়ার্কিং পার্টনার, হাউ উইল ইউ ডিফাইন এ ওয়ার্কিং পার্টনার, তাকে কি রোজ অফিসে যেতে হবে? না, আই এম নট টেলিং দ্যাট, আমি তাতে যাচ্ছি না, বাট যেটা জেনে রাখ, ইট ইজ ফর দ্য ওয়ার্কিং পার্টনার, রাইট, অফ দ্য বুক প্রফিট। নাও ইউ মে রেইজ এ কোয়েশ্চেন যে স্যার আপনি দুম করে একটা টার্ম বলে দিলেন বুক প্রফিট, হোয়াট ইজ বুক প্রফিট, হাউ উইল ইউ কম্পিউট বুক প্রফিট? কিচ্ছু না, ইটস আ নর্মাল কম্পিউটেশন ইন বিল্ট, যেরকম ভাবে নর্মাল ইনকাম কম্পিউট করে, জাস্ট গো অন কম্পিউটিং দিস, just add the remuneration to the partners, যা যা remuneration দিয়েছে, that you add it back, whatever the figure you get, that is the book profit. Then on book profit you take on first 3 lakhs, ধর আমি একটা এক্সাম্পল দিই, my book profit is 9 lakh, তাহলে on first 3 lakh আমি কত পাবো 90% or 1,50,000 তাহলে 90% কত 2,70,000 তাহলে I will get 2,70,000 whichever is higher and on balance তাহলে 9 lakh থেকে 3 lakh বাদ দিলে কত পড়ে থাকলো 6 lakhs on balance I will get 60% তাহলে 6 lakh এর 60% কত 3,60,000 তাহলে 2,70,000 plus 3,60,000 কত হলো 13 3 2 5 6 হ্যাঁ 6,30,000 তাহলে টোটাল রেমুনারেশন অ্যালাইবল ইজ 6,30,000 রাইট এখানে একটা সত্য ক্যাচ আছে একটু মাথায় রাখি ইটস ভেরি ইন্টারেস্টিং সাপোজ there is a loss ধরো পার্টনারশিপ ফার্মে লস হলো কিন্তু পার্টনারকে তো আই হ্যাভ টু পে পার্টনারদের আই হ্যাভ টু পে দ্য স্যালারি আই হ্যাভ টু পে দ্য কমিশন আই হ্যাভ টু পে দ্য বোনাস বাট দ্য কোয়েশ্চেন ইজ ক্যান আই গেট এ ডিডাকশন yes you can get a deduction the কারণ হচ্ছে কি বলেছে দেখ 90% of first 3 lakh of book profit 1,50,000 whichever is higher তাহলে if I have a loss তাহলে আমার ওই 90% থাকছে না because no profit তাহলে zero or 1,50,000 whichever is higher তাহলে 1,50,000 is higher so up to 1,50,000 deduction I can get even if I incur a loss I still can get a deduction of 1,50,000 মাথায় রাখবে এটা ঠিক আছে তারপরে কি হলো রেমুনারেশন বুক প্রফিট যেটা বেরোলো তার থেকে রেমুনারেশন অ্যালাইবলটা ডিডাক্ট করে দিলি দ্যাট ইজ আ ট্যাক্সেবল ইনকাম এন্ড ট্যাক্স রেটটা কত ইটস ওয়ান রেট 30% ফর এ ফার্ম আমাদের মতো না আপ টু দিস আপ টু দিস আপ টু দিস এটা অনলি ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল এন্ড এইচইউ ফর ব্যালেন্স দেয়ার ইজ ওয়ান সিঙ্গেল রেট সে সিঙ্গেল রেটটা কত 30% সো জাস্ট 30% of that you add then you add HEC at the rate of 4% রাইট কিন্তু এই পার্টনারদের কাছে যখন আবার এটা যাবে তো পার্টনারদের কাছে তো ট্যাক্সেবল হবে তখন কি হবে না then there is a section 10(2)(a) তাতে কি বলা আছে the share of profit received by a partner from its firm is not taxable রিজনটা কি ফার্ম has already paid tax ফার্ম তো ট্যাক্স দিয়ে দিয়েছে তুই যখন পার্টনারদের ডিস্ট্রিবিউট করবি তোরা প্রফিটটা which profit will you distribute before tax or after tax definitely after tax so after tax you distribute the partner এগুলোর উপর কোনো ট্যাক্স দিতে হবে না পার্টনারদের ইন্ডিভিজুয়ালি তাহলে একটা ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল পার্টনারদের ট্যাক্সেবিলিটি থাকতে পারে বাট আই ডোন্ট থিংক ইন ইউর এক্সাম পারপাস দ্যাট ইজ ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট ওকে সো দিস ইজ ইন নাটশেল দ্য taxability of the firm and the taxability of the company taxability of the individual so I think এটা যদি দেখে যাওয়া যায় if you go through this I don't overshoot the time because there is a next speaker so I think you will but মাথাটা ফাঁকা রাখতে হবে মানে ক্লিয়ার রাখতে হবে ভিশন মাস্ট বি ভেরি ক্লিয়ার মুখস্থ করে গেলাম স্যার এটার মধ্যে এলো না ডোন্ট ডু দ্যাট you vision must be very clear you must be logical think of the logic move one by one any problem will able to solve I wish you everyone a very success in your coming exam thank you all
Thank you, sir. The session was really very useful. It was really very beneficial. Hope to hear from you soon, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
thank you
thank you sir thank you
because I don't wish to overshoot Baba someone is lying after me so he or she must get his full time na?
So the session was really very interesting.
Okay fine আসলে পড়ার স্টাইলটা that is very vital না way of study টা important এইটাই আমরা কেউ we don't put any focus on that
sir I am also your student sir
thank you Baba
from Lalbaba
acha Sumedha okay I wish you have success in your lecture okay I think you will deliver after me okay thank you ঠিক আছে
হ্যাঁ একদম থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার স্যার মেলটা চেক করে নেবেন আপনার আপনি মেলটা
so I'm going off
yes sir
our university the class ছিল আজকের MBF উফ ও আচ্ছা yes Sumedha আসলে নামটা অনেক সময় খেয়াল থাকে না বাবা ডোন্ট মাইন্ড yes now I can yes
okay bye sir bye sir
thank you bye.
The next session will be taken by Sumedha Majumder ma'am. Sumedha Majumder ma'am presently working as Commerce faculty in Lal Baba College, Belur in the Department of Commerce and a faculty member in the Department of BBA in Sri Agrashan College from 2017 till date. She has done her BCom honors from Lal Baba College and MCom from the University of Calcutta and has qualified both NET and SET exams. She is also pursuing her doctoral work from the University of Calcutta. She worked as an accounts executive in Aditya Birla Minax during the period 2010 to 2016 and as a commerce faculty in THK Jain College during the period 2016 to 2019. She has published 7 research papers in edited volume books with ISBN and 3 research papers in ISSN journals. She has presented several articles in national and international seminars and also published number of research papers in different reputed national and international journals, including seminar proceedings and edited books. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, good evening to all of you. And thanks to KBSSAA for giving me this opportunity. So, may I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
My screen is visible now.
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay, thank you. First of all, today I am delivering my lecture on principles of management as per the guidelines of University of Calcutta. The subject code is CC 1.2 CHG. So this is the first semester subject, and first of all, I am starting from the syllabus of the principles of management. This subject, basically, the entire syllabus covered up by 5 units. So from unit 1 to unit 5, we have as per our syllabus. Basically, unit 1 it is covering the basic concept of principles of management, the importance, functions, features. But the second part of this unit 1, it is already in my PPT, I think it is clearly visible that there is a different school of thoughts of management. Today, I will deliver my lecture on this aspect because as per my knowledge and as from 2017, when the CBCS system was started, till today, we observe that most of the MCQ for our universities to become students, most of the MCQ based on this area. Basically, in different school of thoughts of management, we have basically the three approach. That is the classical thoughts, neoclassical thoughts, and the modern approach. One by one, we definitely discuss, and also remaining chapter of these principles of management that is covered the 5 functions, 5 primary functions of management. I am moving to the next slide. First of all, what is the thoughts of management? মোস্টলি অ্যাজ আ স্টুডেন্ট আমি অলসো ফিল করি কি আমরা যখন স্টুডেন্ট ছিলাম দ্যাট টাইম অলসো কি ম্যানেজমেন্ট দিস ইজ দ্য মানে দ্য কনসেপ্ট ওয়াজ নট ক্লিয়ার মানে ফ্রম দ্যাট পয়েন্ট অফ ভিউ নাও উই রিয়েলাইজ দ্যাট কি ম্যানেজমেন্ট ইজ নাথিং বাট আ particular process. Which type of process? The definition already given by several authors, mostly the very popular definition, it is given by Mary Parker Follett. That is management, it is a process, and which type of process? That is actually getting things done by others. Suppose if anyone start his or her business, that means that particular person actually invest his or her capital towards the business. It does not mean that all the activity of that particular business will perform by that particular person. So that's mean workforce of that particular business, they actually perform for the betterment of the business or for the betterment of the activities, so that actually profit generated. So from that point of view, the school of thoughts of management, it is the basic concept of evolution of the concept of management. Why it is important? Because we all know ki any business that's actually run and operate in a particular society within a particular economic era. So that is why if there is any changes in the socio-economic activity, then accordingly business has have to be adapt these changes. So that is why the school of thoughts of management, it is the several perception of several authors. So from that area, it is nothing but the socio-cultural and economic and aspect changes, and accordingly business adapt these changes. So as per our syllabus, first we have that is the classical thoughts of management. In our syllabus, we have basic two approach, that is the Taylor's scientific thoughts of management and Field's administrative or functional thoughts of management. First of all, the name of this developer or contributor of this scientific thoughts of management, it is important for our exam point of view. That is the Frederick W. Taylor. Taylor, he is also known as father of scientific management. Scientific management, it is nothing but a particular process. Under this process, the segregation of several tasks of the business, it is the first criteria, and allocating that particular task to the right people, it is the basic essence of the scientific thoughts of management. So that is why scientific thoughts of management, it is belief on the apportionment of the entire task into several parts, and also that actually distributed among the right people, so that the basic objective of the management, that is the optimum utilization of resources, that successfully actually fulfilled by the business. So F.W. Taylor, he actually developed this concept, scientific thoughts of management. Based on his contribution, we have four basic principles, and that four basic principles, it is also very, very important for our exam point of view. First of all, the first principles, it is mentioned that we analyze each portion of the task and select one best method to do it. Management, I have already mentioned ki management, it is nothing but a particular process. Which type of process? It is a combination of art and science. Through that combination, the management actually determine a particular methods. Through that methods, the several workforce, they actually doing for the betterment of the business. From the viewpoint of the management, the basic input factors, if any business, suppose in any business, the input factors may be called as men, machines, money, methods, all these are factors that properly handled by the workforce. So from this point of view, under this scientific thoughts of management, Taylor first determined the first principles of management, that is nothing but the analyze each portion of the task. That's mean the segregation of the overall task of the business into small part, and the best method have to be adapted so that optimum utilization of resource that can be feasible. Then the second principles of management according to Taylor, that is the workers should be selected carefully. Why? Because I have already mentioned ki in the management, the right people at the right place, it is very, very important. So that is why Taylor, under his scientific manner of management thought, he already mentioned the proper classification of the work, and the right people should be chosen to do a particular task in a particular method. In the third principles, that is the cooperation, cooperating workers at each stage. Because in business, we know that the basic objective of the business is to profit making. But how is it possible when the workers doing for the business? Because if we observe any balance sheet of any company, then definitely we can mention that the actual paid up capital and capital employed is not the same. In the capital employed, in that part, the reserve and surplus, it's actually a major part. But that profit, that's actually created by the workforce. So from that point of view, management believe that the satisfied workforce, they actually very much fruitful for the business, and also management believe that if the workers are satisfied, then definitely business can get the more than 100% output from them. So that is why cooperation between or among the workforce, it is also important, through which the actual conflict within the organization that can be minimized. That principles also detected by F.W. Taylor. And the last principle, that is the task and responsibility should be divided among the workers. That means if any worker, suppose I am working in any company as an account executive, then definitely if I know my responsibility, my authority, then definitely I can easily perform my daily activity. And also if I know about my the senior boss, then definitely the respondent person, that should be very much clear to me. Then automatically the hazards in my mind regarding my job, that should be minimized. And if as a employee, if I feel satisfied and if I have minimum confusion in my mind, then definitely I can easily perform my daily activity for my actual business or employer. So these four basic principles of management identified or inferred by the F.W. Taylor in his scientific thoughts of management. Then we are moving towards the findings of this scientific thoughts of management. As because we know ki in our exam pattern, we have to follow or we have to face the MCQ pattern. So that is why each contributor name and the year of the development of this thought, and also the basic findings of any thoughts, any approach, it is very, very important for our exam point of view. So in these findings, I have already mentioned that in 1999, 1909, that is Taylor published his Principles of Scientific Management. In this book, suggested that productivity would increase if jobs were optimized and simplified. I have already mentioned in several times the optimization of optimum use of resource. It is the basic objective of the management. Profit making, it is the objective of the business, but from the viewpoint of the management always try to use the resources at optimum level. How is it possible? When the productivity is enhanced, and productivity is actually enhanced if there is a proper structure of allocation of job, and also there is a implementation of the right people of implementation of the hiring mechanism at the right people at the right place. Then we are moving towards the next classical thoughts of management. And basic always, and another thing always remember ki in the classical thoughts of management, the basic rules in classical thoughts of management, it is nothing but that ki these classical thoughts of management believe that workers, that's mean employees, they are the nothing but the factors of production. And that is the basic rules. That's mean ki in the Taylor's also, he also mentioned ki the proper compensation structure, it is important. মানে সাপোজ আমরা যদি যে কোনো জায়গায় চাকরি করি, তো সেখানে যদি একটা কম্পেনসেশন স্ট্রাকচার প্রপার থাকে, সেই ক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু একজন এমপ্লয়ির মনে যে কনফিউশন বা তার মধ্যে যে ডিসস্যাটিসফ্যাকশন, সেই ডিসস্যাটিসফ্যাকশনের প্রবাবিলিটিটা কমে। তো দ্যাট ইজ ওয়াই ফর্মাল স্ট্রাকচার অফ অ্যালোকেশন অফ জব, accordingly right people and right place, and the compensation structure, all these are the basic findings of the Taylor's thoughts of management. In spite of that, there is a major limitation of this Taylor's thought, that is these thoughts of management, it is applicable at the factory level. So that is why Henry Fayol develops his functional or administrative thoughts of management in the year 1916. And under these thoughts of management, it is actually guided the manager or administrative level of workers to apply his thoughts to modify the actual structure of the workers, so that the management, so that the business can achieve its desired goal. Because ki management, this entire process of management, it is the basic purpose oriented. So in the, and Henry Fayol, he is also known as father of modern management. So from MCQ purpose, from our exam point of view, it is always remember that ki F.W. Taylor, he is known as father of scientific management, and Henry Fayol, he is known as father of modern management. Under father Henry Fayol's thoughts of management, it is actually this perception or these thoughts actually followed some principles, and that principles actually enhance the managerial efficiency. These 14 principles, it is very, very important for our exam point of view. The basic concept or definition, it is also important. First principle, that is division of work. Division of work, This element also detect or also inferred by the FW Terrell also, because suppose যে কোনো লোক যেখানেই চাকরি করুক, তো সেক্ষেত্রে তার যদি নিজের কাজের এরিয়া মানে জব স্পেসিফিকেশন, জব ডেসক্রিপশন ইফ ইট ইজ প্রপার, দেন ডেফিনেটলি সেই ব্যক্তি কিন্তু নিজের যে কাজ সেটা সে যথেষ্ট ঠিকভাবে করতে পারবে। তো দ্যাট ইজ ওয়াই ডিভিশন অফ ওয়ার্ক, it is the basic criteria to allot any job to any person in any organization, especially here we are talking about the profit making organization. Then if any work is allowed to any person, then definitely it is the responsibility, nothing but the responsibility float from the top to the downward, that's mean from senior boss to the subordinates. And if any responsibility is flowed, automatically the authority should be there. Without authority, responsibility is not properly performed. In vice versa, if responsibility is provided towards or allowed to any person without providing this authority, then that person is not able to take any immediate decision if there is any requirement of that particular decisions. So that is why authority and responsibility, that should be flowed in a similar manner, so that the workers can perform his or her duty smoothly. Then is the discipline. Without proper working environment, is not possible for any worker to perform for the business. Suppose if I know who is the senior boss of mine, then definitely, and I have to obey his or her rules, regulations, guidelines, so that I can perform my duty for the business. So that is why proper working culture, discipline, that should be specific. Then the unity of command and unity of direction. Unity of command, nothing but the instruction from the higher authority. Suppose if I am a accounts executive, then definitely I have to follow the instruction of the accounts manager. So suppose if any business, suppose there are 3 or 4 accounts manager, then definitely it's very hard for any accounts executive level workers to follow the instruction of 3 or 4 type of accounts manager. So that is why unity of command, that means যার কাছ থেকে আমি যে ইনস্ট্রাকশন বা যে গাইডলাইন পাচ্ছি সেটা প্রপার হতে হবে। and unity of direction, দ্যাটস মিন কি ম্যানেজমেন্টের যে অবজেক্টিভ সেটা আমরা সবসময় জানি কি উইদিন আ স্পেসিফাইড টাইম পিরিয়ড যে অবজেক্টিভটা আমাকে অ্যাচিভ করতে হবে। মানে সাপোজ আমি যদি ধরে নিই যে হ্যাঁ আমাকে একটা আমি অ্যাকাউন্টসের ট্যালির কাজ করতে বসেছি যে আমাকে আজকের দিনের মধ্যে আমাকে 1000 এন্ট্রি দিতে হবে। তো দিনের শুরুতে যদি আমার ম্যানেজার এসে আমাকে বলে যে হ্যাঁ তুমি অ্যাকাউন্টসের জিএসটি বিলে 1000টা এন্ট্রি আজকে দিয়ে দাও, বাট সাপোজ এট দ্য ইভিনিং যখন আমার কাজ শেষ হচ্ছে তখন যদি আমাকে আরেকজন এসে বলে যে না তুমি 1000টা নয় 500টা 5000টা এন্ট্রি দাও, then definitely there is a কি proper objective, that's mean কি আমি কি 1000 এন্ট্রি দেব না 5000 এন্ট্রি দেব, which is the actual need of my duty, that is not clear to me. So if there is any confusion and conflict regarding this, then definitely as a worker it is not possible to follow the instructions. So that is why Fayal also inferred these principles, that means unity of command and unity of direction in his thoughts. Then the subordination of individual interests. সাপোজ আমরা যখন অ্যাজ অ্যান এমপ্লয়ি কোথাও কাজ করতে যাই তখন আমরা কি ভাবি যে আমি কত টাকা স্যালারি পাবো, দ্যাটস মিন কি উই আর অলওয়েজ থিঙ্কিং অ্যাবাউট দ্য কম্পেনসেশন। if we definitely compensation it is needed, without compensation it is not possible for any person to survive in the society or in the market. In spite of that, সাপোজ আমি যদি জানি যে আমি কি কাজের জন্য অ্যাপয়েন্ট হয়েছি এবং সেই কাজটা আমার কাছে যদি প্রায়োরিটি থাকে, তো দ্যাটস মিন আমার যে স্যালারি পাওয়া যেটা অবজেক্টিভ, সেই স্যালারি পাওয়া অবজেক্টিভটা আমাকে তাহলে রিলেট করতে হবে কিসের সঙ্গে, যে যদি আমি কাজটা করতে পারি দেন আই উইল গেট দিস স্যালারি। So that is why here the business actually wants to get profit. How is it possible when as a worker we are doing for the business, then definitely we are actually thinking to achieve the organizational goals. So that is why Henry Fayol also detect that is subordination of individual interest. Suppose as a worker, if I think and if I believe that I am able to get the salary, if the purpose of that particular business, if it is achieved, then definitely the regarding the thought of my compensation that should be minimized, and then definitely I can focus on the particular অ্যাক্টিভিটি, মানে আমাকে যে কাজটা দেওয়া হয়েছে আমি যদি সেটাই ধরে নিই যে সেই কাজটা করলে আমি তাহলে স্যালারিটা পাবো, তাহলে সেই কাজটা করার দিকে আমার মনটা বেশি থাকবে। তো দ্যাট ইজ ওয়াই এখানে আমার ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল বা ব্যক্তিগত যে স্বার্থ বা ব্যক্তিগত যে চাহিদা, যে সেটাকে আমি অনেকটা বেশি মিনিমাইজ করতে পারছি। রেমুনারেশন, আই হ্যাভ অলরেডি মেনশন কি উইদাউট প্রপার কম্পেনসেশন স্ট্রাকচার, মানে আমরা যেখানেই চাকরি করতে যাই না কেন, প্রপার রেমুনারেশন স্ট্রাকচার, সেটা মানিটারি হোক নন মানিটারি হোক, সেই রেমুনারেশন স্ট্রাকচারটা কিন্তু থাকতেই হবে। টু minimize the labor turnover ratio. Centralization, why centralization? Because কি decision making power, মানে বিজনেসের ক্ষেত্রে যে কোনো ডিসিশন মেকিং পাওয়ার সেটার মধ্যে একটা ইউনিটি থাকা উচিত। মানে সাপোজ আমি ধরে নিলাম যে আমাকে আগামী 3 মাসের মধ্যে আমাকে প্রোডাকশন করতে হবে 5000 ইউনিটস, আবার ওই একই বিজনেসের মধ্যে সাপোজ পারচেজ ম্যানেজার বা প্রোডাকশন ম্যানেজার বা এনি আদার লাইন ম্যানেজার থিংস দ্যাট কিনা আমার প্রোডাকশন হওয়ার কথা 10,000 ইউনিটস, দেন ডেফিনেটলি ইটস ভেরি কনফিউজিং ফর দ্য ওয়ার্কার্স কি হ্যাঁ আমি কত ইউনিটস এর জন্য কাজ করতে চাইছি বা করব, সেটা নিয়ে একটা কনফিউশন থাকে। তো দ্যাট ইজ ওয়াই সেন্ট্রালাইজেশন, it should be a particular manner of management so that the workers control mechanism should be specific. Scalar chain, it is nothing but the proper flow of communication. It is also important for any type of organization, specifically for the profit making organization. When management is applicable, then basic essence is to optimum utilization of resources. If it is the basic essence, then definitely the proper communication in the flow of the proper structure, that is important. Order and equity, proper instruction at the right time, at the right place, at the right time manner, it is important. And the equity, that means there is no biasness, that is important. মানে suppose if any worker doing well, then definitely business has to think about the betterment of that particular workers. Stability, that means the actual tenure of the workers life in a particular area or in a particular job, it is important. And initiative, if suppose any workers wants to take any better initiative for the betterment of the company with making some changes, short term changes, then definitely the business has to welcome this initiative and spirit the crops. That's mean the total unity is important, because the individual work of any worker, it is not sufficient. And also these principles of management, it's also considered by several other authors. Then we are moving towards the actual applicability, because when we are discussing about this several thoughts of management, then definitely here we actually focusing for our exam point of view. Up to this, the exam point of view, that's mean Taylor's contribution, Fayol's contribution, the year of this contribution, and the name of the author, the basic principles of this contribution, and the basic principle, the essence of this of these thoughts, and also the applicability. Taylor's thoughts, it is level as a factory level. It is applicable only for the micro approach, because it is only the factory level. But in case of Fayol's thought, it has the macro approach. That's mean here the general 14 principles of management, it is applicable for the management, so that the managers can easily handle the workforce within the organization. Then we have another part as per our syllabus, that is the neoclassical thoughts of management. In the neoclassical thoughts of management, we have the two perception or two approach. That is the human relations approach. Human relations approach, it is developed by Elton Mayo. and another is the behavioral science approach that is developed by Mary Parker Follett. And Mary Parker Follett, she is also known as mother of modern management. And there is a basic difference between the classical approach and neoclassical approach is that in the classical approach, it's actually believed that workers, they are nothing but the factor of production. So that is why business actually paying the compensation. That is why they are working for the organization, nothing more than that. But in neoclassical approach, it's actually believe that workers, they are not, they are the human factors. That means they have the emotional and sentimental factors. So that is the basic perception or basic difference between the neoclassical and classical approach. And neoclassical approach, under this, the first thing is that here the human factor, it is the main emphasis. Elton Mayo developed this human relations approach through the study. The name of this study, it is also very, very important for our exam point of view, that is the Hawthorne study. Under this Hawthorne study, basic essence of this Hawthorne study is that this study actually conclude that not only the monetary factor but also the several working environment. That means several informal groups, informal relationships within the organization, patterns of communication, informal leadership. All this factor has a great impact on the working level or on the efficiency of the workers. Say example, suppose as a worker, when we are doing job in any companies, then definitely we already know the flow of formal structure of that communication. In spite of that, nowadays basically we all are in a social media. Suppose ki যখন আমরা ফেসবুক বা হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ বা ইনস্টাগ্রাম যেগুলো ইউজ করি, দ্যাটস মিন কি ফ্রম দ্যাট আমাদের মধ্যে একটা গ্রুপ তৈরি হয়ে যায়। ইনস্পাইট অফ দ্যাট, সাপোজ আমি যেখানে চাকরি করছি, আমি জানি যে আমার বসকে বা আমার সিনিয়র যিনি আছেন তাকে, রেসপন্ডেন্ট পার্সনকে, তা সত্ত্বেও আমাদের বিভিন্ন যে উইদিন দ্য অর্গানাইজেশন যারা নোন পার্সন, তাদের সঙ্গে আমাদের একটা ফেসবুক হোক বা হোয়াটসঅ্যাপে হোক একটা ইনফর্মাল যে রিলেশন তৈরি হয়ে যায়, সেই ইনফর্মাল গ্রুপগুলো থেকে কিন্তু আমাদের অ্যাজ আ ওয়ার্কার বিহেভিয়ারটা মডিফাই হতে থাকে। তো দ্যাট ইজ ওয়াই দ্য Hawthorne study, it's actually infer that not only the compensation structure but also the working environment, it has the positive or maybe the negative impact on the workers performance. So the features of this neoclassical approach, it is the social system. That's mean ki I have already mentioned ki neoclassical thoughts of management, it is actually believed that human factors, that's mean men who are working for the business, they are not only the factors of production, they are also the sentimental factors. So that is why these thoughts of management believe or focus on the social system. That means it is believed that society at a large, it has a positive or maybe the negative impact on the performance of the workforce. So that is why social system and social environment both are the main key aspect in this human relations approach. Then the informal organization, I have already mentioned informal group, informal organization, informal communication, all these have the major impact on the performance of the employee. So suppose I am in any part of or any component of any informal group, then definitely as a worker, my behavior that should be impacted by that particular dynamics of the group. That is also the major highlights or findings of the Hawthorne study. Then the leadership. Leadership here is basically the leadership. We already know that leadership, it is nothing but a human quality. So in any informal group, maybe there are some persons, that person have the proper quality to mold the person, other person. So that is why suppose I am belonging from a particular group, then definitely my behavior that can be modified or that can be actually impacted by that particular flow of leadership of that particular group. And role of money and conflict, this is also the very very important part. Also role of money, it's also the findings of the classical approach as well as neoclassical approach also believe the compensation structure, because we already know ki any worker working in any business or any companies, then definitely the compensation structure that should be proper. And also the conflict, মানে সাপোজ আমি যেখানে চাকরি করছি সেখানে বিভিন্ন ইনফর্মাল গ্রুপের কারণে যদি আমার কোনো কনফিউশন ক্রিয়েট হয়, দেন ডেফিনেটলি অ্যাজ আ ওয়ার্কার আমার পারফরমেন্স যেটা সেটা ডেফিনেটলি ইম্প্যাক্টেড হবে। Then we are moving towards the next thought, that is the our behavioral science approach. That behavioral science approach as per our syllabus, it is also comes under the neoclassical thoughts. Behavioral science approach, it's actually developed by Mary Parker Follett. These thoughts actually believe that not only the individual work but also the group teamwork, that is important. In the neoclassical approach of the Elton Mayo's human relations approach, we already know that not only the monetary factor, that means the working environment has the major impact on the performance of the worker, and simultaneously in behavioral science approach, which is developed by Mary Parker Follett, under her approach, we actually detected that teamwork, it is important. সাপোজ মানে যখনই আমরা যেখানে কাজ করতে যাচ্ছি মানে সেখানে শুধুমাত্র একজন বা দুজন এমপ্লয় শুধুমাত্র এফিশিয়েন্ট হলেই যে বিজনেসটা ভালো কাজ করবে বা পারপাস যেটা সেটা ফুলফিল হবে সেটা কিন্তু নয়। যদি সাপোজ আমি অ্যাকাউন্টস এর জব করে থাকি তো মানে সেক্ষেত্রে শুধুমাত্র একজন এক্সিকিউটিভ খুব ভালো কাজ করছে বাকিরা বসে আছে বা বাকিরা কাজ করছে না, সেইটা দিয়ে কিন্তু আমরা বলতে পারবো না যে না অ্যাকাউন্টস ডিপার্টমেন্ট খুব ভালো কাজ করছে। তো বিহেভিয়ারাল যে সায়েন্স অ্যাপ্রোচ যেটা মেরি পার্কার ফলেট, শি ইজ অলসো নোন অ্যাজ মাদার অফ মডার্ন ম্যানেজমেন্ট, তার এই অ্যাপ্রোচ থেকে আমরা যেটা বুঝতে পারি সেটা কি হচ্ছে যে একটা বিজনেস সেটা ভালোভাবে চলছে কি চলছে না সেটা আমরা ডেফিনেটলি অ্যাকাউন্টস এর ভিউ থেকে তো দেখবো যে প্রফিট হচ্ছে কি ভালো হচ্ছে না সেটার ম্যাটারে, কিন্তু যখন আমরা ম্যানেজমেন্টের দিক থেকে দেখছি তখন আমরা কি দেখছি অপটিমাম ইউটিলাইজেশন অফ রিসোর্সেস হচ্ছে কি হচ্ছে না। বিকজ কি যে কোনো বিজনেসের ক্ষেত্রে রিসোর্স ইজ দ্য লিমিটিং ফ্যাক্টর। তাহলে যদি আমাকে অপটিমাম ইউটিলাইজেশন অফ রিসোর্স করতে হয় তাহলে সেখানে গ্রুপ এফোর্ট, দ্যাটস মিন টিম ওয়ার্ক, ইট ইজ ইম্পর্টেন্ট। তো এবার আমরা একটু পিপিটি ধরে এগোই, সেটা হচ্ছে বিহেভিয়ারাল ম্যানেজমেন্ট থটের ফার্স্ট ফাইন্ডিংস কি বলছে। আ কি টু এফেক্টিভ ম্যানেজমেন্ট ওয়াজ কোঅর্ডিনেশন। For exam point of view, it is also very very important ki this function coordination, it is the essence of management. মানে proper coordination means ki actual যে proper linkage between or among the several departments, it is important. কারণ বিজনেসের যে কাজ সেটা মাত্র যে যে অবজেক্টিভটা আমার অ্যাচিভ করতে হবে সেটা শুধুমাত্র একজন দুজন কাজ করলে হবে না, পুরো টিম ওয়ার্ক দরকার। তো দ্যাট ইজ ওয়াই কোঅর্ডিনেশন ইট ইজ ইম্পর্টেন্ট, and coordination and the group effort without making any confusion, any conflict between or among the people, it is important. And these management thoughts also believe that ki management, it is a continuous and dynamic process, because আমরা অলরেডি জানি কি ম্যানেজমেন্ট যেটাকে বাংলায় আমরা বলছি ব্যবস্থাপনা, এটা একটা ডাইনামিক প্রসেস। কারণ কোনো রিজিড নেচারের যদি পারসেপশন হয় দেন ইট ইজ ভেরি হার্ড ফর দ্য বিজনেস টু ট্যাকল এনি সিচুয়েশন। তো দ্যাট ইজ ওয়াই বিহেভিয়ারাল সায়েন্স অ্যাপ্রোচ সেখানেও কি বলা হচ্ছে যে যেহেতু এখানে আমরা যে ওয়ার্কফোর্স তাদেরকে আমরা কি বলছি, দে আর দ্য হিউম্যান ফ্যাক্টরস, দ্যাট মিন দে আর দ্য ইমোশনাল অ্যান্ড সেন্টিমেন্টাল ফ্যাক্টরস। তো ফ্রম দ্যাট পয়েন্ট অফ ভিউ আমরা এটা বিলিভ করছি কি কোনো একজন ওয়ার্কার্সকে দিয়ে যদি আমাকে কাজ করিয়ে নিতে হয়, কারণ বিজনেসে ম্যানেজমেন্টের বেসিক ডেফিনেশনই আমরা জানি কি গেটিং থিংস ডান বাই আদার্স। তাহলে যদি আমাকে আমি ম্যানেজার হিসাবে আমার যদি ওয়ার্কফোর্সকে দিয়ে কাজ আমায় করিয়ে নিতে হয় তাহলে আমায় বেসিক যেটা মাথায় রাখতে হবে যে হাউ টু মোল্ড, হাউ টু মোটিভেট দ্য ওয়ার্কফোর্স, দ্যাট ইজ ইম্পর্টেন্ট। So that is why behavioral science approach always believe that management is a dynamic process, not a very rigid nature of process. And also it is felt that ki, any person within the organization who actually closest to the situation, if that particular person take part in the decision making, then definitely that should be proper, which known as the participation in management. That is also important. Mane, suppose we know ki strategic level of management, they are taken the decision. If the operative level of the workers, they actually float or transfer his or her feedback towards the top level or the strategic level of management, then definitely after getting that feedback from the operating level of the workforce, then definitely that decision should be very much realistic. So behavioral science approach also believe that the best decision would be made by the people who are closest to the situation. Then the basic structure of the contribution of Mary Parker Follett, I think it is clearly visible. Ki first of all, goal actually the basic goal of this of her contribution is to improve coordination, because this belief or this behavioral science approach actually believe that teamwork is important. So if teamwork is important, then definitely interlink between or among the several departments, several part within the company, it is important. So from that point of view, proper coordination, it is the first focus. And if it is the coordination improvement, then definitely the manager needs to establish a good working relationship with the employees, because these thoughts also believe that participation in management of the workforce, it is important. So if it is important, then definitely managers should make a good relationship with the co-workers, with the employees, so that managers can easily get feedback from the all level of the employees. Then the workers should participate in solving problems. Managers need to communicate with workers, because we know that to minimize any conflict within the organization or any situation of our life, then definitely communication, it is important. So in the same manner, when her contribution, Mary Parker Follett's behavioral science approach, when it is inferred that teamwork it is important, then definitely sound communication structure it is important. Then in our next part, that is the modern management theory, and it is also from our syllabus. So under this syllabus of University of Calcutta, in this modern management theory, we have two approach, that is the system approach and another is the contingency approach. From the name of this system approach, I think it is very much clear to all of us. System means it is a process. Under this process, the proper system to perform a particular work, that should be first prepared by the management, and then definitely the flow of the work, that should be proper. And this system approach, it was developed in the year 1960. Under this approach, it is believed that all the component or all the element of the company, it is interrelated and interdependent. So from that point of view, a system approach, it is believed that there should be a particular combination of several parts or things that actually simplify our work, our organized business work, and also it can minimize the complexity to perform any activity in the business. That is why the systematic approach, it's also kind of scientific approach. That's mean it is actually follow the rules regulation of scientific approach with the combination of the perception of the neoclassical thoughts. So that is why it's kind of modern management theory. We can infer that it's kind of combination of classical and neoclassical thoughts. So under this systematic approach, it's the basic objective is to structure a proper open system so that the business can easily handle any complex situation, because we know any business run in a particular society, particular economy. So that is why changes actually the basic essence of any society. So if any business is readily accept the changes and also accordingly plot the structure how to solve that change within a particular systematic manner, then it is considered as the systematic approach. And under this systematic approach, the proper structure or proper flow of work that actually prepared based on the several interrelated and interdependent factors of the business. And also the first person, that's the Chester Barnard, first time utilized this system approach in the field of management. The name of Chester Barnard, it is also important for our exam point of view. And the last approach as per our syllabus, that is the contingency approach. In a systematic approach, it's actually follow the predetermined factor. That means based on that predetermined thought, we structured a proper course of work, and then we consider the several factors of the business. Then we actually make a proper guideline so that the workers of the business, they can perform his or her role to achieve the organizational goals. But in contrary contingency approach, it's actually believed that if there is any immediate changes or any changes happening at any time, then how that changes actually adapt, or how that changes can, maybe it is the negative changes, means for example of COVID situation, most of the business change their business format, business structure also change in converting the online mode. So that is why contingency approach believe that if any changes, maybe it is the social changes, maybe it is the economical changes, maybe it is another any macro level changes, micro level changes, how that changes is converted in the positive manner in the business, and how that actually handled by the business, this perception or this flow, this kind of mindset actually provided under this contingency approach. And this approach first time developed by Fred Fielder. And under this approach, two factors are important, that is the task motivation or relation motivation and circumstances. And for exam point of view, it is also always remembered this contingency approach, it is also considered as the situational approach, because under any situation, how the business actually react against or within that particular changes, that is the basic essence of contingency approach. And from that point of view, we can differentiate in the systematic approach, it is actually flow, I mean, it's actually believed that the predetermined factor, they are the constant, and based on that, the proper method of work that actually frame. But in case of contingency approach, it is believed that any immediate changes may happen within the organization, outside the organization. Suppose it is the macro level changes. In spite of that, when business actually deal with that particular concept or with that particular situation, that kind of perception or that kind of belief actually inferred through the contingency approach. Then under this contingency approach, the basic essence, it is nothing but the situation, based on the situation. And that situational forces may positively, may negatively impact the business. But how the management deal with, that means the leadership quality, that should be broad-minded. Suppose in case of COVID-19 situation, if I have my business and I believe that payment system only based on the traditional method, then how is it possible for me to survive in that online mode? Because after the COVID situation, we already know from the several report ki more than 80% business converted in the online mode. So that's mean ki if a management believe that ki if any changes is happen within the society, within the economy, then definitely we have to adapt these changes. Otherwise it's not possible for the any business to sustain in the market. Because we know that profit making, it is the basic objective, but now as any business we believe that value maximization, it is also important, and also the sustainability. Without sustainability it's not possible to generate the profit. So that is why contingency approach, it is also considered as the situational approach, and it's believed that the effectiveness of leadership that actually vary from situation to situation. So that's mean dynamics of the leadership, it is very important, and flexibility of the leadership quality of the management, it is also very important. So that is the contingency approach. And more on the contingency approach, I mentioned here for the exam point of view, it is also sometimes called as the situational approach, as our students face the MCQ pattern of questions. So that is why it is very important to remember these things. Contingency approach, it is also considered as the situational approach. And under this situational approach, there is no one universal applicable set of management. Because traditionally we always sometimes we mention that universal rules regulations actually follow, but contingency approach, it is actually differ that particular traditional thoughts of management. There is no universal applicable set of management principles or rules. That's when if situation demand any changes, then we have to modify, we have to adapt that changes. Otherwise that change, adapting these changes, it is not possible for any business to sustain in the changed situation. So that is the that's all about our as per our syllabus. So in nutshell, I just recap the things. As per our syllabus, under this School of Thoughts of Management, it is comes under the unit one, part of the unit one as per our syllabus. And this is syllabus applicable for the first semester honors general students, and also for exam point of view, the question paper of the principles of management, that should be same because it is the CHG paper. And also as per our syllabus of unit 1, first part is the basic, that is the introduction. And under this introduction, the basic introduction of management, it is a process, which is a process, it is the combination of art and science, and through that combination we have management actually getting things done by others, or maybe the definition is management tactful, it is also the very popular definition of management. And also the several five primary functions, that is the planning, organizing, directing, staffing and controlling. These 5 primary functions, it is also very important for our exam point of view. And also the nature of management, it is the combination of arts and science, because management is always try to follow several rules and regulations with the help of the essence of art. Why? Because the basic perception of management is to getting things done by others. So that is why the combination of arts and science, it is important. And the objective of management, that's mean the optimum utilization of resources. And always remember that the objective of the business is to profit maximization, but the management objective of the management is the optimum utilization of resources. And the next part, which I have already mentioned, that is the different school of thoughts of management. In nutshell, we have the 3 approach, that's the classical, neoclassical and modern. Under classical, we have the 2 approach, that's the Taylor's scientific thoughts of management, Henry Fayol's functional or administrative thoughts of management. And in neoclassical, we have also the 2 aspects, that's in the human relations approach developed by Elton Mayo in his Hodgson study, and also the behavioral science approach
Madam, please unmute. Madam, please unmute.
Sir, I think there is a network issue because she is unmuted from one device.
Madam, please unmute. Madam, please unmute.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
হ্যাঁ, বলছি আমার কি লেকচারটা শোনা যায়নি?
না না শোনা গেছে, আপনার লাস্টের যেটা বলছিলেন সেটা শোনা যাচ্ছিল না।
ও
আপনি যে
মেবি
শেষটা,
আমার নেটওয়ার্কে একটু প্রবলেম হচ্ছে।
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ, ওই লাস্টের যে সিলেবাসটা বলছিলেন সেটা সেটা শোনা যাচ্ছিল না।
মানে কি আমি স্ক্রিন শেয়ার করব নাকি ঠিক আছে স্যার?
করুন, আপনার চেষ্টা করুন, টাইম আছে ম্যাম, আপনার কাছে টাইম আছে, করুন।
অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমার এই স্ক্রিন প্রেজেন্ট আর ভিডিও অন দুটো একসাথে করলে না নেটওয়ার্কটা থাকছে না দেখছি।
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, এমনি বলুন এবার, যদি আপনার ওখানে
আমি কি
হ্যাঁ বলুন,
এই
আপনি
যে
ফাইনাল সিলেবাসটা কি বলছিলেন?
ওটা কি আমি স্ক্রিন শেয়ার করব একবার নাকি স্ক্রিন শেয়ার ছাড়া বলবো?
বলুন, যেটা আপনার ইচ্ছা ম্যাম।
অ্যাকচুয়ালি ভিডিও আর স্ক্রিন শেয়ার দুটো একসাথে থাকলে নেটওয়ার্ক কাজ করছে না মাঝে মাঝে।
আচ্ছা এমনি বলুন, তার এমনি বলুন।
ঠিক আছে স্যার, তাহলে আমি মানে ইন নাটশেল জাস্ট ওই মানে ডিফাইন দ্যাট কি under unit 1 we have the first basic introductory part, that's mean what is the management. It is nothing but the getting things done by others, and also it's defined as a process of combination of arts and science. And why it is combination of arts and science? Because ki arts, it is actually believed that ki rules and regulations, it is important to govern, to modify the workers performance. And simultaneously, suppose if any management wants to get things done by others, then definitely they have to motivate the workers. So from that point of view, if the manager has the capacity to know the perception of the workers, then definitely they are able to do the same. So that is why it is called as the art. And under these circumstances, as per our syllabus, we have another part, that is the basic primary functions of management. Under our syllabus, we have the base entire other chapters, that's mean the primary basic functions, that's mean planning, organizing, directing, staffing and controlling. This is the 5 primary functions of management. And another part which I deliver in my lecture, that is the school of thoughts of management. So school of thoughts of management, it is classified under 3 particular head. That is, first one is the classical approach, then the neoclassical approach, and last one is the modern approach. Classical approach, it is actually believes that if laborers, those who are the workforce, they are nothing but the factors of production. Neoclassical approach, it's believed that key workers, they are the human factors, so that is why they are the emotional and sentimental factors. And the modern approach, it's try to combine the perception of the classical and the neoclassical approach, so that the proper utilization or optimum utilization of resource that can be happened. So as per our syllabus, in classical approach we have 2 thoughts, that is the Taylor's scientific thoughts, and Henry Fayol's functional or administrative thoughts of management. Then under neoclassical thoughts, we have also the another approach, that is the human relations approach and behavioral science approach. Human relations approach, it is developed by Elton Mayo through his Hawthorne study experiment. And behavioral science approach, it was developed by Mary Parker Follett, and Mary Parker Follett is known as mother of modern management. Oh, and another part is the modern management. Modern management, under this modern management, we have another two aspects, that is the systematic approach and contingency approach. Systematic approach, it is believed that key rules, regulations that should be particular, and based on that, the flow of task that should be prepared so that the critical situation can be handled by the business. And the contingency approach, it is the situational approach. So under this contingency approach, it's actually believed that if there is any immediate situation or immediate any incident is occurred or happened within the organization or outside the organization, but if that particular incident has impact on the activity of the workers, then how the management will deal with the same. That is the basic infer or basic essence of this contingency approach. So that's all about the entire area of unit 1 for our BCom semester 1 student, and this paper is common for honors and general. So that's all, sir. Okay, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. The session was really very useful. Thank you for the elaborate discussion and the in-depth knowledge. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you for the organization to giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir. Okay.
Ma'am, kindly check your email, okay?
Okay, sir. ठीक है. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next session will be taken by Pingala Roy Chowdhury, ma'am. Pingala Roy Chowdhury, ma'am, graduated from Seth Anandram Joypuria College 2010, did her master's from University of Calcutta with finance specialization 2012. She served as a contractual full-time lecturer at Sri Shikshayatan College from 2013 August to 2020 December. Worked as a visiting faculty in the BCom department, Deshbandhu College for Girls, Mirzapur City College. Worked as a visiting faculty at the MCom department of Novo Baliganj Mahavidyalaya and Sri Shikshayatan College. Presently associated with as an assistant professor and head of the Department of Commerce, Tarokeshwar Degree College, Hooghly. She published paper in UGC Care listed journal Mudra on cryptocurrency, peer-reviewed journal Indian Accounting Review of IAARF on insight into the behavioral perspectives of credit card holders, case study on rise and fall of Jet Airways India Private Limited, a case study on contemporary management, presented a paper in National Conference on Contemporary Issues in Accounting and Finance organized by the Indian Accounting Association Research Foundation. She served as an external examiner of St. Xavier's College UG department, and she is also pursuing her doctoral work from the University of Calcutta. Over to you, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay, thank you, Sukanya, for this wonderful introduction. And thank you, sir. Thank you, organization, for giving me this opportunity. So I will be quickly shifting to my topic. My topic for the day is redemption of preference shares. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, ma'am, the screen is visible.
Okay, so let me first start with what do we mean by preference shares? Though I know that everyone knows that what is a preference share, but still for a brief introduction, I would like to introduce what is a preference share. Now, as the name says, preference shares, that means something, preference, the word preference itself says something which gets a priority. So preference shares are those shares where in case of liquidation or in case of nil profits or less profits, the shareholders are always entitled to a fixed amount of dividend or a fixed rate of dividend. And that is why they are considered to be the external creditors, because we the company are always liable to the preference shareholders, but actually we are not liable to equity shareholders. Equity shareholders are our owners, to whom the dividend can wait. If the profits are not there, they can wait, but preference shareholders won't wait. So that is why the name comes preference shares. Now moving to the topic redemption of preference shares. Firstly, we have the concept of issue of shares, we have the concept of redemption of shares. Now, when it comes to issue of shares, something when we are issuing, as my screen says, when we are issuing, what is happening is company is issuing certain amount of shares in exchange of money. So in this case, in the case of issue, money is having an inflow and shares are running out from the company. So shares are being owned by someone and those who are owning the shares are paying back the money. But in case of redemption, it's just the reverse. Here what happens is company gets the money in exchange of the shares which they had once issued. So those issued shares are being bought back by the company and they are getting and they have to pay money in return of that. So in case of issue, money is having an inflow, shares are having an outflow. But in case of redemption, the case is just the reverse, where there are inflow of shares and outflow of money. Now, buyback, the word buyback is usually associated with equity shares when the company is buying back the equity shares from the owners themselves. But in case of preference shares, since the preference shareholders are not the owners of the company, so the rightful legal term buyback cannot be used. So we use the term redemption. Now, moving down to the rules regarding redemption of preference shares. Now, there are certain conditions for redeeming preference shares. Now, Companies Act Section 55 deals with the rules and conditions regarding redemption of preference shares. The very first thing which we need to remember is that if the preference shares are not fully paid up, then we cannot redeem any preference shares. So, for a preference share to be redeemed, they need to be fully paid up. Until and unless the full amount is paid up, until and unless the full amount is called and paid up, you cannot redeem any preference shares. And the most important thing is that we are redeeming preference shares. The company will need money to do that, because the company is redeeming, because the company is buying the shares from the owners of those shares. The company needs to pay them money in exchange. Now, the company has to arrange for that fund. So the question is, where from will a company arrange such fund which will be utilized for redeeming the preference shares? Now, according to the Companies Act, they have clearly specified two sources for redemption of those preference shares. The first source is the divisible profits. By divisible profits, I mean the profits which are exclusively available for distribution as dividend. As we all know, if a company has 1 lakh amount of profit and if it distributes the entire 1 lakh amount as dividend, it won't be able to run the business for long. Why? Because it needs to store certain amount of profit as reserve so that it can be plowed back into the business so as to grow the business and accelerate its profitability. So that is why a certain part of the profit is available for distribution and a part of it is kept as reserve. So that part which is exclusively available for distribution as dividend is known as divisible profits. And that divisible profit is a source of redemption of preference shares. And the second source is the proceeds of fresh issue. Fresh issue, by fresh issue, I mean issue of both equity shares as well as preference shares. The issue from both equity and preference shares, the amount raised from the issue of both equity shares and preference shares can be utilized for the purpose of redemption. Now, coming into the details, as I said, divisible profits are those profits which are available for dividend. Now, the section of the Companies Act says that if I am redeeming preference shares, by utilizing the profits, by utilizing the divisible profits to be very specific, then what happens is, as soon as you take out an amount from the divisible profit, the company's reserve is getting down. So in order to fulfill it, you have to set aside a part of that divisible profit to another reserve account, which is known as capital redemption reserve account, most popularly in accounts known as CRR account. So that account is just to protect the erosion of capital, as because you are taking or setting aside a part of the divisible profit for your redemption of preference shares, your capital is getting eroded, and to protect such erosion, you need to create a simultaneous reserve. The main purpose of creating this capital redemption reserve is to prevent the erosion of profit, and thus we are creating this capital redemption reserve. Now the question is, what amount will have to be created for capital redemption reserve? The amount of preference shares which you are redeeming, the nominal value only, that is, if you are redeeming preference shares at premium, we will not consider that premium amount. We will consider only the nominal value or the face value of preference shares which you are redeeming. So that amount of preference shares which you are redeeming, the face value of such has to be set aside to capital redemption reserve from your divisible profits. Now here is a list of certain divisible profits and certain indivisible profits. Divisible profits are mainly profit and loss account, general reserve account, dividend equalization reserve, and reserve fund. These are mainly your divisible profits. Now, as you can see, I have numbered general reserve as 1 and profit and loss account as 2. The main purpose of this is to make you understand that when we are setting aside a part of the divisible profit to capital redemption reserve, the first reserve which you have to utilize is the general reserve. So we will start from general reserve and then move on to profit and loss account unless otherwise stated, because profit and loss account is often used for many other purposes. So that is why we usually focus mainly on general reserve to set aside this amount, and then we move on to profit and loss account. But if the question states otherwise, you have to follow that. And another two which often comes is dividend equalization reserve and reserve fund. These are the last to use. First, after exhaustion of general reserve and profit and loss account, we move down to these reserves for help if the amount is not sufficient. And certain indivisible profits, why I have mentioned these indivisible profit is to highlight that these profits, even if given in the balance sheet of your question, cannot be utilized for redemption purpose. What are those indivisible profits? There is securities premium. Securities premium is created out of fresh issue of shares when we are issuing equity shares at a premium at a price higher than the face value. That is when securities premium get created. Now that securities premium cannot be utilized to set aside for capital redemption reserve. Why? I'll be briefing you right now. Securities premium, the amount of securities premium is usually utilized to set off the premium on redemption of preference shares. We will come into it later on. Next, another thing which you cannot use is a capital reserve. Next, what you cannot use is what you are creating, that is capital redemption reserve. Say, for example, a company had redeemed certain preference shares in the year 2019 and it already has a CRR. Now, in 2022, the company is further redeeming another amount of preference shares. That means the balance sheet has an existing CRR amount, that is capital redemption reserve amount, but that CRR amount cannot be utilized to redeem the preference shares, because this reserve is something which you are creating for redemption and that cannot be utilized for further redemption. Next is revaluation reserve. What is a revaluation reserve? If you remember, you have done partnership, admission of partners. In cases of admission of partners, there has been valuation of assets and liabilities. New valuations of assets and liabilities when asset values increases or liability values decreases, whatever be the situation, we used to pass it through revaluation account. So that is what we mean by revaluation reserve. Next, we have debenture redemption reserve and investment allowance reserve. So these are certain things which you cannot use for your redemption purposes. Now, what you can use is mainly general reserve, profit and loss account, and if these two gets exhausted, then we move down to dividend equalization reserve and reserve fund. So that is the details of divisible profit. Next, coming to proceeds from fresh issue. As I said, proceeds from fresh issue would mean both equity shares as well as preference shares. Now, if you are, we all know that shares can be issued at par, it can be issued at premium, it could have been issued at discount previously, but now, unless and until those are sweat equity shares, no other equity shares are allowed to be issued at discount. So, if you are issuing equity shares at par, then the proceeds that I am saying that you can utilize the proceeds from fresh issue. So what will be considered as proceeds? Say for example, if two equity shares are issued at the rate rupees 10, so you are getting rupees 20. So 20 rupees is your proceeds. Now say for example, a share which is priced at rupees 10, you are issuing it at rupees 12. So two shares you are issuing at rupees 12, you are getting a total of rupees 24. But that 24 cannot be considered as proceeds for the purpose of your redemption. Why? Because that rupees 24 includes premium amount of rupees 2 per share. Face value was rupees 10. You have issued the share at rupees 12. So 2 rupees each is your premium amount. So that premium amount cannot be considered as proceeds for the purpose of redemption. That you have to keep separate. So that 10 rupee par value, however number of equity shares you are issuing, multiplied by that face value will be considered as your proceeds. And in case of shares issued at discount, the proceeds will be par value minus discount. That means the face value at which you are issuing minus discount. Why are we excluding discount? Because that amount we are actually not receiving. So if we are not receiving, we cannot consider that as proceeds. Whatever we shall receive, we have to consider as proceeds. If we are not receiving 2 rupees, we cannot include 2 rupees. But if we are getting extra 2 rupees at premium, that amount has to be excluded and only the face value has to be considered. So proceeds from fresh issue, that is your at par, at premium, at discount, whatever it be, you have to consider proceeds as par value until and unless it is issued at discount, which is usually in cases of sweat equity shares, and you will not get those in your questions usually. Next, coming to if shares are redeemed at premium. Now, if you are doing the redemption at premium, that means if you are redeeming the preference shares at premium, then the amount of premium shall have to be provided out of securities premium first and then from your profit and loss account. Now, securities premium, as you know, that it can be created out of fresh issue. As you are doing the sum, say for example, the company has mentioned issue of equity shares at premium. So then you will get a securities premium, or else it may so happen that there are no fresh issue, but securities premium is existing in the balance sheet. That also can be utilized for this purpose. But securities premium can be utilized only for the purpose of this premium amount. So if you are issuing something at a premium, say for sorry, if you are redeeming something at a premium, then it is a loss for the company. Why? Because the company had issued a share at rupees 10. Now if it is redeeming at rupees 12, that means the company has to pay rupees 2 extra. So this is not the case of issue. So premium on issue is considered as a profit for the company, but premium on redemption is considered as a loss on the part of the company. So that loss has to be compensated. Where from will the money come? So that is that for that purpose, for that compensating premium, we need to utilize securities premium first, and then we usually utilize profit and loss account. But if the question doesn't state anything, you can also go for profit and loss account first and then securities premium. But usually it is advised, since securities premium cannot be utilized for any other purpose, so it is better that you utilize securities premium first for your compensating the premium, and then you move down to profit and loss account. Now, when we say that we can utilize the proceeds from issue of shares as your redemption purpose, we exclude debentures from this. See, I have mentioned here some notable points. Proceeds from issue of debentures cannot be utilized for the purpose of redemption. If you are issuing debenture, that proceeds, however amount you fetch from such issue, you cannot utilize that for the purpose of redemption. You can only utilize the proceeds from issue of equity and preference, but not from debentures. Next is proceeds from sale of fixed assets cannot be utilized for the purpose of redemption. Say, for example, you are selling your plant and machinery, you are selling a furniture of your company, you are selling certain investments of the company. Whatever you sell and whatever money you receive from such sale, you cannot utilize that for the purpose of your redemption. Now, it may so happen, it may so occur to you. One second. It may so occur to you that why will a company want to issue equity shares when it is deciding to redeem preference shares? Now, say for example, we are redeeming preference shares. Now, there is a fine difference between equity shares and preference shares. As a company invites equity shares, it is inviting ownership for the company. But for preference shares, it's not that. Preference shares are considered as your external creditors because you are liable to them. Now, if the company thinks that I have a need for a permanent capital, which if circumstances be, I may not be able to repay. So that need for permanent capital will always push the company, will always incentivize the company to issue fresh equity shares instead of preference shares. Now, if a company doesn't want to increase its capital structure, say for example, it is comprising of 10,000 equity shares and 20,000 preference shares. Now, the total number of shares, the total share capital of the company is not willing to restructure the share capital. If the company is not willingly to restructure the share capital, it has to redeem some to issue fresh. Now, if the company wants to issue equity share, so that is the purpose why they need to redeem preference share. That can be one reason. Next reason can be, say for example, a company is not being able to fetch desired profits for several years. Now, as the lesser amount of profits you are fetching, the more problematic it is for a company to pay the dividend to the preference shareholders. Now, how long will you make a preference shareholder wait for paying the dividend? You need to pay them. So for paying that dividend, the company has to assure itself that it is able to fetch profits on a regular basis. But if it is seen that you are having insufficient profits, and that too for a stretch of 2 to 3 years, then that will create a bad reputation for your company on those shareholders. So even the preference shareholders will not feel free to invest in your company. So that is the time when you will wish that, okay, fine, if I'm not being able to fetch desirable profits, it's better that I redeem the preference shares and I issue equity shares so that my liability decreases a bit. And if your liquidity position is not good enough. So the point number 2 and point number 3 is almost interlinked. If you are not fetching desirable profits for a stretch of 2 to 3 years, that automatically means your liquidity position is not good enough to pay off the preference shareholders. So those are the times when you will feel that it's better to redeem, it is better to buy those preference shares which had once been issued and to switch over to issue of fresh equity shares, so that I have owners of the company and not creditors of the company. So that was a brief of the total explanation of redemption of preference shares. Now moving down to journal entries. What are the entries which we need to pass? First, certain entries are already known to you. When new shares are issued at par, when they are issued at premium. Now, when we have done issue of shares chapter, we have seen that the money is collected through application, allotment, and then call. Whether first call or first and second and final call, that depends upon the policy of the company. But in cases of redemption of preference shares, when you will be doing the sums practically, when there will be questions set for you, you will find that the total amount of money is being collected at once. Since this is a chapter of redemption, so if we waste our time passing entries for issuing equity shares, we will not be able to reach down to redemption. So that is why we usually do not break it into application, allotment and call. We assume that the entire amount is being collected at application. Now, if a company states otherwise, that 2 for application, 3 for allotment and 5 for call, then you have to do accordingly. But usually what happens for redemption sums is, it is assumed, the question assumes that the entire amount on issue is collected at application. So on that basis, these journals are framed. So when new shares are issued at par, we are getting money. So obviously bank account will be debited and we are getting it on application. So to equity share application account. Now we are creating equity share capital. So equity share application account will be debited to nullify the account and an equity share capital will be created. So the direct entry will be bank account debit to equity share capital. We are getting money against creation of equity share capital. Now, if the shares are issued at premium, we are receiving money. The first entry remains the same, bank account debit to equity share application. But this bank or this equity share application comprises of issue money, that is the face value, plus the premium amount, which needs to be segregated. The face value has to be put to equity share capital and the premium amount has to be separately set aside to securities premium amount. So equity share application account will be debited by the full amount. Out of that, a part will be set aside to securities premium and another part will be going to equity share capital, which will be equal to the face value of the shares issued. Now coming down to redemption. We are done with issue. Now we are coming down to redemption. So when we are redeeming shares at par, the account which is created is redeemable preference share capital account debit. Now why we are debiting share capital? Going back to golden rule. Now this is a preference share capital. Share capital is a liability which is coming on the credit side. Now you are redeeming it. That means you are reducing it. If you are reducing a credit amount, you obviously need to debit it. So redeemable preference share capital account is being debited and you are creating preference shareholders because you need to pay them. So two preference shareholders. And when you will be paying them, the entry will be preference shareholders account debit to bank. This entry, the point number 5. Preference shareholders account debit to bank because the company is making payment. So anything which goes out will be credited. So bank account will be credited and the preference shareholders which was created will now be debited so as to imply that they have been paid off and thus the amount or thus the account does not exist. Now, if the shares are redeemed at premium, as I said, that if a company is redeeming at premium, I need to remember that it is buying a share at premium. Now, when I am buying something at premium, that means I'm buying something at an amount which is costlier than the face value. That means I am paying extra to my shareholder. As soon as it is coming to payment of extra amount on redemption, it implies a loss for the company. And as far as our golden rule is considered, if we are talking about any nominal account, any losses has to be debited and any gains has to be credited. So when you have done issue, you will remember that you have credited premium, securities premium or premium. But now since on redemption, it is a loss and any losses and expenses are to be debited according to golden rule nominal account. That is why you need to debit premium on redemption of preference shares. So redeemable preference share capital account debit, premium on redemption of preference shares account debit to preference shareholders. And when you are paying them, the same entry, preference shareholders account debit to bank. Now the question is that you are creating a premium on redemption over here. This needs to be nullified. As I told you that for compensating this premium amount, you need to set aside a part of securities premium or profit and loss account as a part of the premium. So that will be our next entry for adjustment of premium on redemption because the company has to make an amount for this premium, make a room for this premium. So that room will be made by either securities premium or profit and loss account. So we will be debiting securities premium or profit and loss account. Why will we be debiting this? Securities premium and PL account both are our credit items. we are utilizing that amount to compensate our premium. So if we are utilizing that amount, that means we are reducing those accounts. If we are reducing a credit item, we have to debit it. So securities premium or PL account will be debited, and that premium which was created will now be credited so as to nullify the premium and to imply that we have already set aside an amount for that premium. Now, as we said that if the redemption is out of divisible profits, then an amount equal to the nominal value of the preference shares has to be set aside to capital redemption reserve. Now that entry will be looking like this. See, point number 7 says, for transferring nominal amount of shares redeemed to capital redemption reserve account. Now you are creating a reserve. That means you are creating a new reserve. Reserves are our credit items. So since you are creating a new reserve, capital redemption reserve account will obviously be credited, and you are creating these out of your divisible profits, out of general reserve, out of profit and loss account. So when you are creating a reserve out of general reserve and out of profit and loss, you are actually reducing general reserve and profit and loss by an amount equal to the capital redemption reserve. So since you are reducing credit items, you have to debit them. So general reserve will be debited, profit and loss account will be debited, and a new reserve, which is a newly created liability, will be credited, that is to capital redemption reserve. These are our basic journal entries for doing the redemption. This is basically a very short chapter, a very small chapter, which doesn't have extreme complications, just needs certain things to remember, which we will be going through these sums. So coming to sum number 1. Hindustan Construction Company Limited had 5,008% redeemable preference shares of rupees 100 each fully paid up. The company decided to redeem these preference shares at par by the issue of sufficient number of equity shares of rupees 10 each fully paid up at par. You are required to pass necessary journal entries, including cash transactions, in the books of the company. So before I start off with the sum, let me tell you something that in this redemption of preference shares, you will only have to pass journal entries. There are no questions of creating any ledger accounts. So you need to concentrate on these journals. And as you can see, if you remember the golden rule and if you follow certain basic rules, the journals are very easy. So coming down to the sum, they are saying that they have 5,000 redeemable preference shares, which is carrying a dividend rate of 8%, the face value of which is rupees 100, and each of them is fully paid up. So the first thing which we need to remember for passing redemption entries, that any preference share which is not fully paid up cannot be redeemed. So here, as we can see, all 5,000 shares are fully paid up. So there's no problem in redeeming them. So we will redeem them, and the company has decided to redeem them by proceeds from fresh issue. But what number of equity shares will be issued, that has not been specified. But that will be clear if we go through the sum. So see, firstly, what we need. Why do we need to issue these equity shares? We need to issue these equity shares because we need money for redemption. Now, what amount of money do we need? We have to redeem 5,000 preference shares at rupees 100 each. So we will be needing 5,000 into 100, which is 5 lakh rupees. So we need a total of 5 lakh rupees for redemption. So that means an equivalent amount has to be issued. So if we are issuing, they have said sufficient number of equity shares of rupees 10 each. So we need 5 lakh rupees to redeem preference shares. So we have to issue equity shares amounting to rupees 5 lakh. If the shares are priced each at rupees 10, that means you have to issue 50,000 equity shares at rupees 10 each. So the sum is clear. So now we will first start with the issue of shares. Bank account debit to equity share application. We are issuing a total of 5 lakh rupees shares, and equity share application debit to equity share capital. There's no premium involved. So naturally, there will be only equity share capital created for rupees 5 lakh. Now coming down to the redemption entry, 8% redeemable preference share capital account debit 5 lakh to preference shareholders 5 lakh, and we need to pay them. So preference shareholders account debit to bank 5. Moving down to sum number 2. MMC Limited had 10,000 10% redeemable preference shares of rupees 100 each fully paid up. The company decided to redeem these preference shares at par by issue of sufficient number of equity shares of rupees 10 each at a premium of rupees 2 per share as fully paid up. You are required to pass necessary journal entries, including cash transactions in the books of the company. So here what has been said is the company is having 10,000 redeemable preference shares, all of which are fully paid up. So no issue in redeeming them. There are 10,000 shares carrying a dividend of 10% at a face value of rupees 100. Now here also the sum has not mentioned how many equity shares are to be issued, but it has mentioned that the equity shares are at a face value of rupees 10 and those will be issued at a premium of rupees 2. So now we need to understand that what will be the amount of preference shares redeemed. Now what amount do we need? We need 10,000 into 100. 10,000 preference shares, we have to redeem them at rupees 100. So 10,000 into 100 will be 10 lakh rupees. Now we need total 10 lakh rupees for our redemption. Now we have to remember what I have said, that when you are issuing equity shares at premium, we cannot utilize the premium amount for redemption. We have to consider only the face value of equity share as proceeds to be utilized for redemption. So that means what? We are saying that we need 10 lakh rupees for redemption. So we need to issue equity shares for a face value of total rupees 10 lakh exclusive of premium. Premium will be in addition to rupees 10 lakh. Because we need 10 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees has to be considered as proceeds, and in case of premium issue, the face value only exclusively has to be considered as proceeds. So that means we need face value of rupees 10 lakh and an additional 2 lakh for premium. So that means we are fetching total 12 lakh rupees as equity shares. So bank account debit to equity share application will be 12 lakh, but we will be having face value, that means equity share capital will be created by rupees 10 lakh. 10 lakh means total number of shares will be how much? 10 lakh divided by 10. That means 1 lakh equity shares has to be issued at rupees 10 each. That will give you a share capital amount of 10 lakh, and 1 lakh shares, 2 rupees premium will give you 2 lakh rupees of securities premium. So we are getting a total of 12 lakh rupees, but we have to utilize only 10 lakh. So equity share capital account has to be created by rupees 10 lakh. Next, coming to redemption entry, that becomes easier. 10% redeemable preference share capital account debit 10 lakh to preference shareholders 10 lakh, and we are paying off the preference shareholders account debit to bank 10 lakh. Next, coming to the next sum, where you will see the utilization of divisible profits. See, the following are the extracts from the balance sheet of A Limited as on 31st December 2018. They have given you a detailed share capital structure where they have 40,000 equity shares of rupees 10 each, which are fully paid up. That means a total of rupees 4 lakh. You have 1,010% redeemable preference shares of rupees 100 each, which are again fully paid up, amounting to rupees 1 lakh. You have reserves and surplus, of which capital reserve is rupees 50,000, securities premium is rupees 50,000, general reserve is having a balance of rupees 75,000, profit and loss account reflects a balance of rupees 35,000. On 1st January 2019, the board of directors decided to redeem the preference shares at par by utilization of reserve. So it is very specifically stated that we are not using proceeds from fresh issue. So there's no question of issuing any shares, only we will be utilizing reserve. So you are required to pass necessary journal entries, including cash transactions in the books of the company. So whenever the sum says to redeem only out of profits, your sum starts from redemption entry because there are no fresh issue. So there will be no entries on issue. So the first entry will be on redemption. That is 10% redeemable preference share capital account debit to preference shareholders. What will be the amount? You have 1000 redeemable preference shares. Face value of each is rupees 100. So 1000 into 100, 1 lakh rupees. So 10% redeemable preference share capital account debit to preference shareholder, total 1 lakh. And you are paying them preference shareholders account debit to bank, total 1 lakh. Now what you need to do is you have to set aside this 1 lakh in a new reserve, which is known as CRR. So that 1 lakh has to be segregated out of your divisible profits. And in this sum, the divisible profits given are general reserve and profit and loss account. As I said, we will first start with general reserve. So general reserve, we have 75,000. Entire 75,000 will be required. And from profit and loss account, we will be requiring only rupees 25,000 because we have to make a total of 1 lakh to create CRR. So general reserve account debit 75,000, profit and loss account debit 25,000 to CRR, the new account being created for rupees 1. Now coming down to another sum where we have utilization of both. That means the redemption will be financed both by proceeds from fresh issue as well as we have to utilize our divisible profits. So see, this is the balance sheet of ABC Limited as on 31st December 2018 given to you. The share capital is total of rupees 1,98,000. Reserve and surplus is given at 51,000. You have the other items of liabilities and assets. I'm not going into the details. Now the total bifurcation of your share capital is given here. You have authorized capital of 15,000 equity share and 1,000 redeemable preference shares, and issued and subscribed paid up capital is 10,000 equity share and 1,000 redeemable preference share. But what pair you have to concentrate is, see here it is written 1,000 redeemable preference shares of rupees 100 each, 1 lakh, less calls in area 20 rupees for 100 shares. So that means 100 shares have not been fully paid up. There is a calls in area of rupees 20 each. So these 100 shares cannot be redeemed. This is what you have to keep in mind. The first rule as per section 55 of the Companies Act, that no preference share, if not fully paid up, can be redeemed. So these 100 shares are not fully paid up, so you cannot redeem them. So you have a total of 1,000 preference shares, out of which 100 shares are not fully paid up. So that means you can redeem only 900 shares. The face value of each is rupees 100. Now the general reserve and profit and loss account is given to you, and the question states that on 1st January there are certain fixed asset sale. The fixed asset which was costing rupees 20,000 was sold for rupees 18,000, and on that very date, that is on 1st January, it was decided to redeem the preference shares at a premium of 20% by issuing sufficient number of equity shares subject to leaving a balance of rupees 10,000 in general reserve. All payments were made except to holders of 50 shares who could not be traced. Now let me explain to you first. Firstly, we need to pass the entries for sale of fixed assets. That we will do. Next, we will redeem the preference shares, and this redemption will be both out of equity share issue and out of divisible profits. Now, how will we understand what is the number of equity shares to be issued for the purpose of redemption? For that purpose, see, they have given you a clue. You have to leave a balance of rupees 10,000 in general reserve. General reserve is having an amount of rupees 29,000, and profit and loss account is having a balance of rupees 22,000, out of which you have to cater for the premium on redemption. You have to cater for the fixed asset loss. The fixed assets of rupees 20,000 has been sold for 18,000. So there you have to utilize your profit and loss account. Again, you have to utilize your profit and loss account for the premium part. Now, once you are done with that, you have to check what is the balance of PL account left with you. And then you can utilize only 19,000 from general reserve, because you have to leave 10,000 in general reserve as existing balance of general reserve in your new balance sheet. So once you get those amounts, you have to know that what will be the amount required for redemption minus what is the amount available to you out of divisible profit. Whatever amount will be left will have to be sufficed by issuing equity shares. Now the things will get more clear if I enter into the sum. See, the first entry without any confusion will be for sale of fixed assets. We are getting 18,000 by selling them. Bank account debit 18,000. There is a loss of 2,000 we can see very clearly. So 20,000 minus 18,000, loss on sale of fixed assets 2,000. Two fixed assets are being sold away. So they will be credited by rupees 20,000. Now this loss which is occurring will have to be adjusted from profit and loss account. So profit and loss account debit to loss on sale of fixed assets 2,000. As soon as you do this entry, you have to keep in mind that you have already utilized 2,000 out of profit and loss account. Profit and loss account balance was 22,000. You have already utilized 2,000 for setting aside the loss on sale of fixed assets. So you cannot utilize 2,000. You are left with 20,000 balance of profit and loss account. Next, moving down to redemption. Now, redeemable preference share capital account debit. How much will be debited? 1,000 you had preference shares. 100 shares have not been fully paid up. So 1,000 minus 100, you have 900 shares which can be redeemed. 900 shares at rupees 100 each. Redeemable preference share capital account will be debited by rupees 90,000. Now you are redeeming them at a premium of 20%. 20% of what? As we all know, the premium amount is calculated on the face value of share. So 100 rupee is the face value. 20% of 100 rupee is 20. So 20 rupees is your premium amount. Now you have redeemed 900 shares. So the total redemption amount will be 900 shares at the rate rupees 20, which will give you rupees 18,000 as premium on redemption. Two preference shareholders account 1,08,000. Total 90,000 for redemption, 18,000 for premium. Total preference shareholders have to be paid off for 1,08,000. Out of which premium amount is 18,000. That premium amount will have to be set aside from profit and loss account. You do not have securities premium in this sum. So you cannot utilize any balance from securities premium. So you are left with utilization only from profit and loss account. So now you have to utilize profit and loss account to set aside premium. So the entry will be profit and loss account debit to premium on redemption of preference shares 18,000. So you are sorted with the premium part. Now you have to keep in mind what? You had utilized 2,000 out of PL. Now you are utilizing 18,000 out of PL. So you have utilized a total of 20,000 rupees out of your PL balance. Your PL balance was of rupees 22,000, out of which 20,000 is exhausted. So you are left with only 2,000. So profit and loss account is 2,000 and general reserve is 29 minus 10, which is 19,000. So now you need to understand what will be the amount of equity shares issued. See, the total face value of preference shares redeemed is 90,000. 900 shares multiplied by rupees 100, 90,000. Now, total balance which we will be utilizing from divisible profit is, as I said, general reserve 19,000 and profit and loss account 2,000. So 21,000 can be utilized out of divisible profit, but we need 90,000. So we are short of rupees 69,000. 90,000 minus 21,000. That 69,000 which we are short of will have to be sufficed by issuing equity shares. Now, equity shares, so thus the next entry will be for issue of equity shares. Bank account debit to equity share application 69,000. There's no issue of any premium. So directly equity share application account debit to equity share capital 69,000. You have to pay off the preference shareholders. Now see, preference shareholders account debit to bank would have to be amount rupees 1,08,000 because that is what you are creating here. If you can see here, see 90,000, 18,000 and this is will be 1,08,000. So you need to pay the preference shareholders an amount of 1,08,000. But what happens is, in place of 1,08,000, you have to pay them less. Why? Because the last line of the question, all payments were made except to holders of 50 shares who could not be traced. So you have initiated payment, but you could not trace a shareholder who has 50 shares. Now you have redeemed 900 shares, out of which if you are not being able to trace 50 people or 50 shares, then you have to subtract it. So 900 minus 50, 850 shares, 850 shares multiplied by your total amount, that is 120. 100 rupee as your total amount and 20 rupees as 100 rupee as your face value and 20 rupees as your premium amount. So that multiplied by 850 will give you 1,02,000. So you need not pay 1,08,000 because you could not trace 50 shareholders. So 50 shares has to be subtracted from 900. Now you have 850 preference shares multiplied by 120. How come 120? 100 rupee face value, 20 rupees premium. So 120 rupees per share of 850 shares will give you 1,02,000. And lastly, you are utilizing PL account and general reserve for creating CRR, if you remember. So profit and loss account will be utilized for 2,000 because we have only that amount left, and general reserve 19,000 has to be utilized, to capital redemption reserve 21,000. So divisible profit 21,000 and fresh issue 69,000. Total will come up to 90,000, which is required for your redemption. This is how you have to reach down to the bottom to know what will be the amount of equity shares to be issued. Next, coming to another sum, the following balances were extracted from the books of Bombay Limited as on 30th June 2018. We have 4,008% redeemable preference shares of rupees 100 each, which are fully called up, 4 lakh rupees. But we have calls in area on 600 shares. So those 600 shares cannot be redeemed because they are not fully paid up. You have a PL account, you have capital reserve. Now the preference shares were redeemed at a premium again of rupees 5. The company has issued further equity shares of rupees 10 each as when necessary for the purpose of redeeming. That means you have to utilize the entire amount of your divisible profits. After that, what you are left with will have to be sufficed by issuing equity shares. Almost the same thing. Now the question is, first there's no sale of any fixed assets or investments. So we are directly coming down to redemption. 8% redeemable preference share capital account debit, premium on redemption of preference shares account debit to preference shareholders. Now, what will be the amount of redemption face value? There are 4,000 shares, out of which 600 are not fully called up. So, sorry, not fully paid up. So that means you have 3,400 shares. 3,400 shares multiplied by rupees 100 face value will give you 3,40,000. Your premium on redemption will be 5 rupees per share. So 3,400 shares multiplied by rupees 5 will give you 17,000. Now this premium on redemption, again there is no securities premium. So profit and loss account balance has to be utilized for setting aside the premium. So profit and loss account debit to premium on redemption 17,000. So total PL account balance is having 1 lakh rupees in the balance sheet, out of which 17,000 is being utilized for the purpose of your redemption. Sorry, for the purpose of your premium on redemption. Now, in this question, we do not have any other divisible profit excepting PL account. The other one is capital reserve, which cannot be utilized for the purpose of redemption because it is an indivisible profit. So we have only PL account, and PL account was having a balance of rupees 1 lakh, out of which 17,000 has already been utilized for the purpose of setting aside premium. So you are left with only 83,000. So that amount has to be set aside to capital redemption reserve for the purpose of redeeming preference shares out of divisible profit. So profit and loss account debit 83,000 to capital redemption reserve 83,000. Now once you have got what amount you are getting from divisible profit for redemption, now you can easily find out what will be the amount required to issue your equity shares. See, you are requiring a total of 3,40,000 rupees for redemption, out of which 83,000 has been arranged by setting aside divisible profit. So you are left with 2,57,000 rupees, which need to be issued as your equity shares. So bank account debit to equity share application 2,57,000, equity share application to equity share capital 2,57,000. And lastly, you have to pay preference shareholders. Preference shareholders account debit to bank. You had created preference shareholder for rupees 3,57,000, as you can see, which is inclusive of the premium amount as well as the face value. That amount you are paying off to the preference shareholders. And the last sum for the day, the balance sheet of Green Limited as on 31st March 2016 was as follows. See, the total amount is given as you have a balance sheet given, share capital 6 lakh, reserve and surplus is given as 90,000. There are several certain liabilities and assets. The total details of your preference shares is given here. 1,300 preference shares of rupees 100 each, 1,30,000. This is a BCom honors question for Calcutta University. it was decided to redeem the preference shares at a premium of 10% on 31st March 2016. It was also decided to sell the investment for rupees 24,000 to finance part of redemption from company funds, subject to leaving a bank balance of rupees 26,000 and to issue minimum number of equity shares of rupees 10 each at a premium of 10% to raise the balance of funds required. Now, first we will coming to the sale of investment. Bank account debit 24,000. Now, investment is having a balance, as you can see, of rupees 30,000 here in the balance sheet. So 30,000 balance investment is being sold for 24,000. So we have a loss of 6,000, profit and loss account debit 6,000 to investment 30,000. So you have already utilized 6,000 from profit and loss account. Next, coming to your redemption entry. Redeemable preference share capital account debit will be how much? You have 1,300 preference shares of rupees 100 each, so 1,30,000. The premium amount per share will be 10%. So 100 rupee face value, 10% premium. So that means 10 rupee. So 1,300 into 10 will give you 13,000 rupees. To preference shareholder, total 14,37,000. You are creating preference shareholders. Now you need to find out what will be the amount which you will be needing. Now see, firstly, premium on redemption has to be set aside from profit and loss account. So profit and loss account debit to premium on redemption, 13,000 you will be segregating. Now you have to utilize profit and loss account for the purpose of capital redemption reserve, and you need to issue equity shares. Now coming down to the working note. See, the balance of cash, the cash balance in your balance sheet, see, it has mentioned over here that you have to finance part of redemption from company funds, but you have to leave a bank balance of rupees 26,000. Now, first we have to check what is the bank balance existing in the balance sheet as given. So the bank balance existing is rupees 70,000. Now, after 70,000, what has been the inflow and what has been the outflow? You need to check that. See, investment has been sold for rupees 24,000. So 24,000 is an inflow for the company. So 24,000 will be added to the existing cash balance, which will be given 94,000. Now, amount how much you have to retain, that means how much you have to leave as bank balance in your new balance sheet is 26,000. So that means the fund which is available to you is rupees 68,000. So 68,000 fund is available from the company part. The question states that you have to utilize the company fund to finance your redemption, but you have to set aside 26,000. So after setting aside 26,000, after considering the existing balance and after considering the fresh proceeds, we are left with 68,000 fund which can be utilized for the purpose of redemption. Now, what is the actual nominal value of preference shares which is being redeemed? We had 1,300 preference shares of rupees 100 each. So we need a total of 1,30,000. Now, the premium on redemption is 13,000. So we have to pay a total of 1,43,000 to the preference shareholder, out of which 68,000 can be paid from the company funds. So the excess fund which is needed is rupees 75,000. Now we need to check what is the minimum number of shares to be issued, because see, it has been said here that you have to issue minimum number of equity shares. That means the number of equity shares which has to be issued will be the least. That means further you have to utilize your divisible profits for redemption. You cannot finance the entire redemption out of fresh issue. That is why they have mentioned issue minimum number of equity shares of rupees 10 each at a premium of 10%. So premium of 10% means a total of 10 rupees plus 10 into 10%, which is 1 rupee. So 10 plus 1, total 11 rupees has to be the total value of one equity share. Now we need 75,000, which is inclusive of the premium, as you can see, 13,000. Why we are doing it this way? Because here we are utilizing the company's funds for redemption. So we need a total of 1,43,000, out of which 68,000 is already available from company funds. So we need 75,000. Now the number of shares which has to be issued has to be divided by the premium total amount, which will be inclusive of the face value as well as the premium. So 75,000 by 11 will give you 6,818.18. Now you cannot issue a fraction of share. So you will round it up to the next digit, that is 6819 shares has to be issued. So a total of 6,819 shares has to be issued. At rupees what? At rupees 10 face value. So see the entry here. Equity bank account debit to equity share application will be a total of 11 into 75, that is 75,009, because this is a part number of shares 6,819. That is why this different type of an amount will come. Bank account debit to equity share application 75,009, and equity share application account to equity share capital to securities premium. Equity share capital will be rupees 68,190. Now you have the minimum number of equity shares issued. Now further you have to check whether you need any further amount for sufficing your redemption. Total redemption was for rupees 1,30,000, out of which fresh proceeds has been utilized for rupees 68,190. Now, after utilizing 68,190 from fresh proceeds, you are left with 61,810 rupees. That has to be set aside from profit and loss account, and a capital redemption reserve has to be created so as to suffice the total 1,30,000 for redemption. So profit and loss account debit 61,810 to capital redemption reserve 61,810. So this is the most difficult sum which can come for redemption, and the others are normal sums where you are utilizing. First two we have seen where we have utilized only the proceeds. The next sums where we have utilized only divisible profits, and two sums I have shown where we have utilized partly divisible profit and partly proceeds from fresh issue. And this is a compact sum, which is the most difficult sum which can ever come for redemption. Harder sums than this usually doesn't come. So I hope it is clear. If anyone has any question, you may please proceed.
Actually, ma'am, there is no question as of now.
Okay.
There is no question raised. So thank you, ma'am. The session was really very useful.
Thank you. Thank you
Indeed,
so much. Thank you, sir.
thank
Thank
you,
you,
ma'am.
organization, for giving me this opportunity. I'm deeply honored for having shared my knowledge with all of you. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Ma'am, please check your email, okay, ma'am?
Okay, sure, sure, sir. Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night.
Good night. Good night, sir. So I'm leaving. Thank you.
Okay.